Call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Present. Here.
Trustee Peterson?
Present.
Trustee Blucher?
Here.
Trustee Berman is absent. Trustee Dominiac? Harris?
Trustee Dominiac, Trustee Harris. Oh.
Here, sorry.
Present. All right, first thing on the mayoral report, we have a few appointments. The first one is appointment of the law firm of Addison, Denolfo, Hassenbach, and Castaldo as a village attorney for the village of Antioch. Is there a motion and a second for that appointment?
Second.
Motion, Trustee Bluthart, second, Trustee Peterson. Any discussion regarding that matter? Roll call, please.
I got discussion.
Sure.
So in the contract, the money stays $10,000 plus. Is this an open check for one? We had a set fee prior attorneys.
Sure.
This is open. Second, if there's a conflict, firm picks the attorney, not the board, so they're taking away our house. I don't know how they missed that. We should be the one. If there's a conflict with that firm, the board should be picking the attorney. How do they choose it? I'll give you an example. So something that the board member does, you or a board member should not be picking their counsel. Yeah, that example. So this whole contract's got to be redone, because that just doesn't make sense that this firm would take board power away.
Sure. So,
and then it's in their travel expenses. I don't understand the travel expense. Now we're going to take travel expenses. Never did that in the past.
yeah. So the contract is the next item on the agenda to go through. But I know for I know we're paying $10,500 flat fee. The last I looked at this or negotiated this, it was a $10,000 monthly flat fee. Administrator Keim and I went through it and made sure that some of the duties were more defined or less ambiguous. I would have to look back regarding the conflict portion, but I would never assume that the attorneys could just pick a law firm for a conflict without the trustees. So I agree with you there. And what was the last part of the?
Oh, he's got travel.
Oh, about the travel
expenses. But it says right in there, right in this agreement right here, that we lose power, that firm gets to pick the conflict.
Okay, and we can modify those sections as they come through, so that's no problem. And that in the next item.
That's right.
It says the client shall either appoint a special counsel to represent the client at its expense in connection with such matter or waive the conflict. But you see that the firm selects it.
Well, they're
Not well, it's
we're the client. We're the client, yeah. So are they waiving it, or are they picking it, or we picking it? That's my question.
It says the client shall either appoint, represent us, or
Maybe I misread.
waive. So it would be up to the client, which would be the will. Am I correct?
Yeah, and you know what, Mr. Vaselli,
Yeah.
if you would like to take the
Maybe I misread.
dais, then that you could answer some of the questions to the trustees. I want to speak for your contract.
Hello? Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just want to make sure the agenda item that we're on, is that the appointment or the approval of the contract?
We're on the appointment right now. So
Okay,
you're not appointed yet.
that point, yeah.
Yes.
So we'll talk about both issues now. So the client, right, so it reads, whenever the firm shall report to the client that it has a conflict of interest with respect to any matter, the client shall either appoint a special counsel to represent the client at its expense in connection with such matter, or waive the conflict and direct the firm to represent the client, notwithstanding the conflict. There's no way I would ever dictate who you use as counsel. That's just not. Yeah, no, and that's fine, trustee. It's a good question, but just so you know how I feel about it, there's absolutely no way I would ever dictate. I'll recommend, like if I know a specialist in a certain area, I think it's kind of within my duties to actually recommend that this person would be well served, the village would be well served by representing or working with you. Relative to the fees, I think they're actually lower. I think it was 10,500 before, and now it's 10,000. And the scope is actually a little bit, the retainer actually has more of the scope than it did with your prior law firm. In so much that if you read the non-retainer matters are only TIF that's reimbursed, and then you're not paying for it anyway, rather than all TIF or development matters such as that. So it's actually, it is actually a larger, it's a larger scope of the retainer than, as I understand it, was before. Relative to travel, I don't think I have ever asked for any reimbursement in travel to the village. I will come up here at any cost. I have no problem with that. It's a flat fee. I understand what the engagement entails. And I think that any travel that goes into, like if we get appointed for depositions, we have to go to California, that would be reimbursed. But travel to and fro the village without a litigation matter, no, that's covered by the fee. No question.
Any other questions? I think Trustee Pierce had a question.
Yeah, that was one of my questions about the travel, to clarify whether if you're traveling on business, village business such as going to Springfield or California, as you use as an example.
Sure.
If your firm would be reimbursed for those travel expenses, and I would expect that. And the other point I would like to bring up is if you're not our current firm yet.
I'm
We've
not.
got a current firm with a contract, and the firm that we had before that was $20,000 a month plus expenses, if I remember correctly. Somewhere in that ballpark. So
15 or 17, I think. But yeah, it's closer to 20 to 10.
Any other discussion? So the first, I have a motion and a second on the floor for the appointment of the law firm. No other discussion. I ask for a roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes,
Dominion,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. All right, I guess you can come sit up here again.
I know.
Lotto is skinnier. There's a lot more room. All right, next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an engagement agreement for legal services with the law firm of Addison Denolfo, Hassenbalg and Castaldo Limited, resolution number 22-59. I'd entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Motion trustee Dominiac, second trustee Bluthart. Any discussion other than what we just spoke of? If not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason, Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes,
Dominion,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item, we have a couple appointments for commissions for the village. The first is appointing Julie Nellison to the Police and Fire Commission with a term ending in 2023. I would need a motion and a second to confirm that appointment. So moved. Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Peterson. Ms. Nellison is here tonight. Hi, how are you? So if there are any questions or discussions of the board, and now would be the time. Otherwise, I entertain a roll call. Any discussion? Trustee Pierce.
I'm just,
Ms. Nelson, you can come up here to the microphone if you wouldn't mind.
I don't want to make too big of it. I just never met Ms. Nelson before, so I have no clue what your experience is. So if you give us just a little background, I'd really appreciate
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm recently retired as a trauma ER nurse from Warwick, Kenosha. I had 25 years in the Wake Forest Hospital. This is my second time. I liked it so much, I came back again. I dealt a lot with EMS, police, and fire in my role as an EMS coordinator up at Warwick, Kenosha. Paramedic since and just interested in back. I love community service. I'm hoping to do a little bit of both. Improve my community outlook with Antioch and hopefully get back to them. So,
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
All right, if not, I would entertain a roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Dominican.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, and so don't go anywhere, we're gonna have to have you sworn in real quick. Yeah. Thank you.
That's what we like. No.
Raise your right hand. I, Julie Nelson, having been appointed as member of the Police and Fire Commission of the Village of Antioch and the County of Lake, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Police and Fire Commissioner to the best of my ability. I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we got 2 more minutes. Okay, next item on the agenda is to appoint Shelley Christian to the Police Pension Board with a term ending 2023. I need a motion and a second to confirm. Motion, trustee Masek.
Second.
Second, trustee Peterson. So I know she said she cannot be present tonight. A little background on process. I did interview all of the applicants for these positions with the department heads or the chair. So in the case of the police and fire with Mr. Kinney. And so Ms. Christian, if I remember her resume correctly, she is a vice president at a bank in New York State. For years, so we thought her experience would be helpful for the police pension board. This is replacing Dennis Hockney, who was on the board for a long time, but has recently resigned due to, I believe, some health issues. All right, any other discussion or questions? All right, so in that regard, I entertain a roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Yes.
Dominican.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries, and clerk can swear her in at another time. Last item, and he's going to have to sit here for the whole meeting because he's got the last 2 items on the committee the whole meeting, is the reappointment of Jim Weber as chairman to the Park Commission with a term ending 2027, and entertain a motion and a second. Motion, trustee Masek.
Second.
Second, trustee Peterson. We have any discussion regarding Mr. Weber, his appointment? All right, if not, roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Dominican.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. All right, Jim, you gotta do this again.
I, Jim Weber, having been appointed as chairman of the Park Commission of the Village of Antioch and the County of Lake, solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Park Commission chairman to the best of my ability.
Thank you. All right, the next item is citizens wishing to address the board. We have 2 people signed up. One is Helen Chiappetta, the other is Jerry Vasquez. Helen, I believe you're probably going to be speaking during your agenda item, but I will just ask Madam Clerk to just read the public comment section before we start.
The opportunity to speak to the board is provided for members of the public who have a comment to make about the business of the board. The board appreciates hearing from stakeholders and values your thoughts and questions. The board strives to make the best decisions for the village and the public input. The board must protect the stability and decorum of this meeting. Please be respectful for the duties of the board and the democratic process in your comments tonight. Please state your name and address and address your comments to the board. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. Be factual and courteous, and board requests that you not make statements that are personally disrespectful or condescending to members of the board or staff. To the extent multiple speakers are addressing a single issue, the mayor or chair of the meeting reserves the right to limit the number of speakers making public comment to repetitive nature and or limit the amount of time for public comment. The board does not respond to comments or attempt to answer questions during the public comment period.
Right, Jerry Vasquez, please get to speak into the microphone, it's on Zoom. And just state your name and where you reside.
Hello, thank you for having me speak. Some of you guys might be aware of the situation of what occurred, some might not. Okay, me and the mayor have talked about this, and we cannot come up with a conclusion or closure of what I'm going to share with you guys tonight. June 28th, my son comes home from working at the sandbar and says he was sent home early for selling and accused of selling drugs. He says, I was accused by the chief of Antioch along with the sandbar. And they took me to the back, they questioned me, and I said I didn't have no information about it. I did not sell no drugs to anyone. The staff says, well, you sold it to the chief's son. Pointing in his face, you sold acid to the chief's son, he's not happy with you. Okay? So go home and we will let you know if you are allowed to come back. Okay? 10 minutes, he lives from the sandbar to my house. And all I could think about now is those 10 minutes he had to think about driving home and telling me, who's also in law enforcement, past 18 years for the city of Waukegan, telling me that he was sent home early for selling drugs. Okay? Comes home, says, Dad, I have to speak with you. What's going on? Why are you home early? Well, because I was sent home accused of selling drugs. Did you have anything to do with it? No. Do you know anything about it? No. First thing I do is call the mayor, who's my neighbor and a very close friend of mine. Scott, what's going on with this? Why is my son being accused? What's going on? I later speak with the chief. Chief, what's going on? Why is my son being accused of selling drugs? He's telling me he has no part of it. Chief tells me, well, my son had a bad experience last night, woke up, I found out about it, and he says, your son did. Okay? I tried to go sleep that night, spun around my bed all night thinking, did my son do it? My son's in his bed, spinning around, humiliated, embarrassed of what happened. Okay? The next morning, I get a call from the chief. He says, Jerry, I spoke to my son. I'm sorry about the situation, and your son is not involved with it. Guess what? The damage is already done, guys. My son was humiliated and embarrassed and sent home and said the chief is not happy with you right now, Max. Now, any of you guys, if your kid was sent home and said you sold drugs and your kid has no knowledge of it, you guys would be upset too. Just like me. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a police officer. My wife's on vacation. On vacation, she's in Mexico burying her parents' ashes. I'm not going to call her and say, hey, babe, your son was just sent home accused of selling drugs. Well, I'm speaking.
I can hear you. You don't have to yell.
Yes, if this was you, you would not be happy either.
I wouldn't be yelling.
Well, the damage is already done. I spoke with Scott about it. Scott, how can we fix this?
Sir, just so you know, we know you're talking, but we're already over our limit, but we're gonna give you another minute to talk.
Thank you. I've asked Scott about it. Me and him cannot come up with a conclusion to fix the situation. I don't want the chief to get in trouble. I don't want him to get written up. I don't want nobody to get written up. I want my son to be public up here saying, I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry that this happened to you. honor student in college, gonna be an educator, and this is the way he was treated, and not one person has said they're sorry. Chief said he's sorry to me, and you know what? I take it. But not one person has reached out to Max and said, you know what, Max? Sorry you had to get another job, but it is what it is. I talked to my chief about it, and I said, what can I do about this? I talked to attorneys, my chief, everybody about the situation. How can we have closure? Okay, I'll be back next time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, any other public comment? All right, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Is there anything that any of the trustees wish to have removed from the consent agenda this evening? Trustee Pierce, yes.
I don't know.
Right, the minutes? Okay, so, item 1, I would need a motion in a second, I believe, to remove it now. Okay. All right, do I have a motion and a second to approve item number 2 of the consent agenda? Motion trustee Bluthart.
Second.
Second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Benny.
yes,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Moving item number 1 on the consent agenda to item, first item on the regular business is the approval of the July 13th, 2022 public hearing and regular meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee Bluthart. Second trustee Peterson. Discussion, please.
I just wanted to let everybody know I was gonna abstain from voting on this item because of I was not present that time. I was on a vacation on a cruise ship in Alaska and do the policy that.
All right. No other discussion, roll call, please.
Pierce.
Abstain.
Mason. Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Benny.
yes,
4 voting yes, 1 abstaining, motion carries. Next item on the regular business is consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $265,387.43. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Motion trustee
Second.
Peterson. Second trustee Pierce. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason. Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Benny.
yes,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. I forgot to say earlier that if you were here to be sworn in, except Jim, or to speak, and you do not want to sit through the rest of the regular business, I will not take offense if you want to leave at this point, so you don't have to sit through the whole meeting. All right, bear with me while I read the next one. It's regular business, it's consideration and approval of an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issue of not to exceed $25 million general bond obligation, alternative revenue source series 2022 of the Village of Antioch, Lake County, Illinois, to finance the cost of the redevelopment plan and project in connection with the village's Route 83 redevelopment project area, the cost of the business district plan and project in connection with the village's East Business District, and the cost of the business district plan and project in connection with the village's Central Business District, namely the cost of land acquisition and the construction of public works and improvements, being municipal public buildings, public roadway, water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, sidewalk, parking, park, recreation, flood mitigation, and drainage and utility improvements, together with related appurtenances, all electrical, professional, financial, bond registrar, legal, mechanical, and other services necessary, useful, or advisable to such acquisition and development, and incidental to said improvement, to pay bond discount, bond interest, financing, and administrative expense, prescribing the details of said bonds, providing for the imposition of taxes sufficient to pay the same, and for the collection, segregation, and application of certain village revenues to pay said bonds. Ordinance number 22-07-38, and entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Motion trustee Pierce. Second trustee Peterson. We have Daryl Davidson on Zoom. If there's any questions regarding this matter, Do I have any discussion regarding this matter? All right, if not, roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Antioch.
yes,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Item number 5, consideration and approval of a resolution approving a facade grant in the amount of $5,700 for 910 Main Street, resolution number 22-61. Do I have a motion and a second?
so moved.
All right.
Second,
I have a motion, trustee Peterson, second trustee Dominiac. Discussion, please. I believe petitioner Shelley Obel is available via Zoom if we have any questions. Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, trustee Mason.
So this is not, this doesn't look like facade, it looks like maintenance. So I said this facade grant is starting to kind of drift away. We're doing caulking, stucco, we're doing stucco repair, general maintenance, that's so much. The rough keeps, power washing. I don't think that when we put this program together, I don't think this was what intended to do general maintenance.
excuse me, trustee Masek, it's hard for us to hear you.
No, I'm sorry. I said, I don't think this program was put together to do general maintenance of a building. That's usually the building owner's responsibility for general maintenance. This, everything in here is caulking, is fixing stucco, that's general maintenance of a building. This is all that stucco has a time frame, and it's all done. When you have stucco, you have to fix it. It's just got a lifespan. And I don't think the facade is done for maintenance. Because then we're gonna be doing power washing, we're doing other.
It's also painting too.
Yeah, well, painting is general maintenance. I get it. Everybody else has to do painting stuff.
Well, it looks dilapidated and it will definitely make the Main Street look a lot nicer.
I hear what you're saying, but isn't that the pride of a business owner to make your building look nicer?
Well, I don't know how other people qualified for this grant, and I was hopeful that I would qualify.
Well, usually it's for replacement of windows, doors, and whatnot. That's what the facade program was. It wasn't set up for general maintenance. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, I don't think it's for painting and general maintenance of buildings, because then it's gonna start getting out of control, which I think it's already gotten out of control. And people are living paycheck to paycheck, and when we start spending money, it gets to be an issue, and people start saying, wait a second, I'm paying $5 for gasoline, you guys are spending my money for general maintenance. I gotta paint my own house. Why don't they paint their own building?
Any other discussion or questions from trustees?
I have a comment if no one else does before me.
Sure, trustee Dominiac.
I just wanted to point out that we have approved other facade grants for painting and other items that were referred to. So it may be that we need to have a discussion about the facade grant program at another time, but we do have a building here that is a significant building in the downtown. And we have given people money for paint, so I have no problem with this.
Any other discussion? All right, if not, I entertain a roll call, please.
Pierce.
No.
Mason.
No.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Antioch.
Yes,
3 voting yes, 2 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of an ordinance for text amendment to section 10-5-1 of the Antioch zoning ordinance, ordinance number 22-7-39, and entertain a motion in a second, waiving the second reading, please.
So moved, waiving the second reading.
Motion, trustee Bluthart,
Second.
Second, trustee Peterson. Mr. Garrigan.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This matter comes before you, before a proposed tax amendment. Specifically, it's really a housekeeping matter. As you recall, back in 2020, we did a comprehensive rewrite of our zoning ordinance that was done in-house. Going through the matrix and speaking to end users, there were inadvertently a couple uses that were inadvertently left off the matrix for B1, B2. We've been in discussions, actually we've had discussions for several years for a couple fuel stations and also daycares. So those are technically not identified in the B1 or B2 matrices. So what staff wanted to do is really a housekeeping matter. We have now incorporated fuel stations and daycares, both as special uses in the B1 and B2. That gives the board the prerogative to review those, any future application for daycare or a fuel station. In addition, for clarification purposes, to try to mitigate or minimize any potential clarity issues or ambiguity, we did specifically incorporate some different uses, a little more precise uses, especially specifically relating retail. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. So the first aspect of this is section 10.5.1, which is the B1, B2 matrices. We're also proposing an amendment to the recreational ordinance that we should handle those separately. So if there's any questions as it relates to the use matrix, I'd be more than happy to answer those right now.
Any questions, discussion? Trustee Pierce.
On the document here, what's the P and the S stand for?
Permitted, fees permitted use. So that's by right. Special use is a special use that would require a public hearing before the planning commission and village board.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Trustee Mason.
So this is trailers, boats.
I'm sorry, the recreational, yeah, I'd be more than happy to discuss that.
So this is great news, because when you got a problem with the association that doesn't want to do anything, now we get some backbone for the village.
Right,
So I'm adoring this.
okay, thank you.
Adoring this now we get some teeth with, I don't want to mention the management company that doesn't want to do anything. So now we can say, well, it's a village ordinance, thank you. So I'm commending you on this. And we got trailers parked behind houses that they can't be doing that.
Right.
So I'm commending that.
At this point, I'll be more than happy to kind of review the recreational section.
And just, yeah, just for clarity, that's that 10-12-2.
Correct.
They were combined in the packet, but
Correct.
this is,
They're
we'll have
separate.
two votes. So the first vote will be regarding the form-based code.
Right.
The second one will be regarding the,
I'm always jumping.
that's what you're excited about. You're excited.
I'm just so excited.
I know. All right, any other questions on the form-based code or discussion on the form-based code? All right, if not, roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Dominion.
Yes,
5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next is consideration and approval of an ordinance for text amendment to section 10-12-2E of the Antioch zoning ordinance, ordinance 22-7-41. Entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
second,
second trustee Luther. Discussion, or Mr. Gary?
Yes, thank you. Again, for record, this is an amendment to the village's recreational ordinance. Back in 2020, we did amend a section of RVs. We had specifically over approximately a month and a half ago, we had an issue with actually a RV being parked on the village right away. And unfortunately, we did not have the ability to prohibit that. So we have revisited this section. What we're proposing is really just revisiting the exact same language we had back in our previous ordinance, which frankly I thought was more comprehensive and addresses, again, all recreational vehicles. Obviously we're a community of recreation, a community of a lot of lakes and camping and RVs. So I think the zeitgeist here is clearly being flexible for parking RVs. We don't want to be overly restrictive, so staff was cognizant of that. So based on that, what we're proposing is an amendment with a little more clarification, a little more teeth from section from A to G. The only major amendment from the previous ordinance is we are providing owners of RVs or owners of properties latitude to either, whether they want to clean their RV or have a visitor for 1 to 7 days. So there was basically visitors coming, they would park obviously in their driveway, they could not park on the street. So it would be a limitation of 7 days, and they would need the consent or the review and approval of Community Development Department. So that's the only real amendment from that previous ordinance. Again, trying to provide recreational vehicle owners or equipment owners a little more latitude. Otherwise, generally the same parameters that we've always followed.
Trustee Pierce?
I don't agree with this. I think this is an overreach on our part. I think we're stepping into a activity between an association and their members. The association has their enforcement policies and their enforcement means. If their association doesn't want recreational vehicles, they should be the ones enforcing it. I think we're going to be hurting people with recreational vehicles in this village, and to turn our community development department into a enforcement of 7 days or less, counting the days when they parks their RV there department, I think that is wrong. So I'll be voting no on this.
Any other discussion?
Well, I got one other comment. I think this follows the same as Lyndhurst. You gotta park your boat on slabs. You gotta have a place to park. Lyndhurst has the same basic, Mike, you can verify this. They've got the same documentation. They're not a homeowner association. You gotta have it on a side part of your house on a slab. You just can't have it sitting in the middle of your driveway. So just to kind of clean up the area.
Do you want Mike to?
Well, Mike can verify. I mean, it's just, I know it because I got enough people sure over there, so.
You know, I've surveyed and done enough research on recreational vehicle ordinances throughout the metropolitan area. Typically, almost most municipalities, in our current ordinance, just for the record, we do have an ordinance that regulates RVs as we speak. It does require them to be parked on hard surfaces and improved surfaces. So you can't just park your RV on your front yard and your grass. That's prohibited. There are some restrictions on how we handle that. Most villages do have restrictions. Most villages would prohibit an RV from being parked in your front yard on grass or on unimproved surface. So again, for the most part, what we're proposing is generally very consistent with our current regulations, just a little more specificity, with regards to where that RV can be parked. So generally, an RV can be parked in your driveway. There's no prohibition of that. It can be parked in your side yard, as long as it's on an improved surface. It can be parked in your backyard, again, as long as it's on an improved surface. What we don't want is just a boat or RV just parked on the grass.
All right, I'll go around. Any other discussion before I go back to Trustee Pierce? Trustee Pierce?
I think if we're concerned about the appearance of the village and we want to expand this into controlling where people park their vehicles, then we should also look at our commercial vehicles that are being used as billboards in front of businesses, parking lots along the front of the street and everything else. I mean, if we're going to turn into the vehicle police, the recreational vehicle police, we should turn into everybody has to conform, businesses and private residences.
Trustee Peterson?
I think that's why we're doing this.
Trustee Peterson, could you speak into the mic, please?
I'm sorry. That's why I think we're doing this, is to dot all those i's and cross the t's. And so we have some teeth and we can actually do the things that we want to do and clean up the area a little bit. Stop it.
I'm sorry, it's only one group. It's forcing association rules.
All right. All right, any?
I was just waiting.
Oh, yeah, Trustee Luther?
Had a quick question, Mike, on the 7 days per year. Is it gonna be called out? Is it per calendar year? What
Per calendar year, again, and this was a discussion, this was not in the original proposal. The planning commission recommended this modification to give some people a little more latitude to either, I guess, for RVs or boats, sometimes they do what they call seasoning during the season.
Well, during the meeting, I remember it was discussed, but I don't recall where they would have to go to written permission.
Well, I think they,
I like the 7 days, up to 7 days per year, but I don't think there's a need, you're just putting an extra step for that person who wants to just pull their RV up for a couple days. Now they gotta go to you first, get permission, bring it out. I'd rather have it written where it's up to 7 days.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Without permit, I mean, we don't need to have you babysitting the up to, now, if someone was to file a complaint, they'd have to have proof of when they put the unit there or something else, but
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a reasonable way.
I
don't
just
want
an added step that's not needed.
Right, I don't want to be the RV police.
All right, any other discussion?
So how would we address trustee Boothardt's comment? Do we amend what you've got written here, or?
We would just delete the community development review, just delete the one section where it says community development, to be written improve community development. So that section would be stricken. So there would be no per se written requirement from the community development department.
So do we need to amend the motion then?
Need to amend the motion.
Amendment.
So, I entertain a motion in a second, waiving the second reading, revising, is there a paragraph G?
Yes,
Paragraph G.
paragraph G.
We're striking it from may seek written approval within the community development or to just whenever a recreational vehicle is allowed to park a recreational, how would we change it?
Shall we permit it?
Yeah, it should be permitted for a maximum of 7 days. So no written consent will be required.
Shall we permit it to? We'll
That's way back.
Thank you. We will revise it and it will read, an owner of a recreational vehicle shall be permitted to park a recreational vehicle in a driveway for a maximum of 7 days per year to allow for a seasonal cleaning or to allow to be used by visiting guests.
I don't even think we need to put a reason. It's up to 7 days. We need to have a,
I'm fine. You want to eliminate those two?
I'm just trying to make it as simple as
That's fine.
possible. And then, I have one more, that question just came up, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Is there the right of anyone to appeal, or not appeal, but I guess ask for additional time? Is that gonna be in the ordinance, or is that not gonna be?
No, it's not going to be an ordinance. It's not, we're not proposing that be an ordinance.
Okay.
So
I just thought maybe that might be not a bad idea to add that a owner may petition the village for additional time under special circumstances. In fact, I know we don't want to get into all the different special circumstances, whatever. I'm just trying to make this as simple as possible.
give us some latitude. I mean, I'm fine with that. The village, the board wants to provide some latitude for staff.
Would it be okay to table this tonight and
Say,
then
we can also have a motion,
rewrite it?
That's fine.
or accept the first reading and come back for a second.
Yeah, we can accept the first reading.
Direct the village attorney to draft.
We can-
revise
yeah.
ordinance.
We'll revise it. So the recommendation would be either to accept the first reading, which is a much easier way to handle this, or you could table, I would say, accept the first reading. We'll come back with a revised draft at the next board meeting. I don't know if it's 2 weeks, but the next board meeting with the revisions as requested by the village board.
And I'd like to get Scott's comments before we have the motion to accept the first reading and come back.
Could I?
Yep, I'll go around one more time, and then we'll hopefully get a motion in a second for the first reading. Trustee Pierce?
I just question, what's the fine for violating the recreational vehicle policy? Is that within this, or is there no fine?
I think we'd follow our general penalties for doing an administrative citation, which would, I think,
What's our general penalties?
it's, my recollection was, $75. $75
Per occurrence or per day, or is there?
per occurrence for each citation. It's not, obviously, your second citation, there's a higher fine.
So it'd be an escalate.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. That's just trying to figure out the cheaper for storage.
Any other comments before this goes back to the drawing board?
And by far, it's just not association. I think it's bad. They go to town.
You know that if we're not talking to your mic.
So many constituent complaints about, cars in the backyard, trailers in the backyard, there's no teeth that they can't do. You know, I've got a car sitting over at the apartment building, hasn't been registered. You know, they gotta look at, you know, that's gotta be part, that should be part of this. Now I think about it. You know, unregistered cars sitting there, just, they're junk. I don't even know if the car's been stolen. It's just sitting there. It's been there for 3 years. Wisconsin plate on it. So, you know, they're just nuisance.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Yes.
A couple things. I think that trustee Masek's comment really brings up a repeated concern about code enforcement, because I believe that there is something in the ordinance, one of the ordinance that exists today about abandoned vehicles. But I just also wanted to comment on trustee Bluthart's suggestion that there could be an opportunity to extend the time. I would make a recommendation that we think about that being maybe just another week, because if you totally leave it up to the discretion of staff, I think that opens the potential for staff to be questioned. So-and-so got an extra 3 weeks. How come you're only going to give me a week? So I would suggest that we just say it's 7 days with the potential to extend it another week.
All right, so now that we have the first reading, I have a motion and a second to accept the first reading and bring this back. All right, what's the motion?
What you just said.
Well, we have a motion to do the waive the second reading. Don't we have to withdraw that motion?
They are, yeah,
We did, Mary.
trustee.
Okay.
So I have a motion from trustee Peterson, a second from trustee Bluthart, accepting the first reading and bringing this back. Do you have a roll call, please?
Pierce,
No.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Mayhew,
Yes.
4 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement with Strand Associates, Inc. for technical services related to the wastewater treatment plant clarifier in the amount of $27,400, resolution number 22-62. Do I have a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Dominiac, administrator Kime. May have a brief presentation so that the board understands what the situation is at the wastewater treatment plant and why this is necessary.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the news on the wastewater clarifier, just to give you a little more information, it's a primary clarifier. It's one of 2 at the plant. What it does is it accepts influent, also called a mixed liquor from aeration, which is a waste stream of the village. And then it allows, the clarifier allows the solids to separate from the liquids. So what this device does is essentially take the sludge and solids. And do we have it on screen? Can you put the first one up there? Thank you. So that's a drawing of the clarifier. It's about 100 feet diameter. And basically what happens, and then I'm going to go over to the screen. I don't know how you can hear me while I'm talking about do that. So I'm just going to try to describe it to you. Effluent comes into the clarifier through the center of the bottom, and you can kind of see a pipe running along the base. We've had that pipe televised and we've determined that pipe has been fractured, is cracked. As I've reported to you in the past, the floor of the clarifier buckled, so the floor pitches in a convex way, or concave way to the center. As it buckled, it can reverse. So if you go to the picture, on the second slide, you can see the center of that clarifier where the floor is kind of dry around the middle. That should be the deepest part of the clarifier. That should have water. So that apparatus moved up about 2.5 feet. Since that time, cleaned it, we filled the clarifier again. It did settle. And the premise was maybe this will settle back down and go into its original position. It settled quite a bit, but it's not in its original position. we've also learned as of last week that the main inflow pipe, it's a 20-inch ductile iron pipe, is fractured. It's broken. It needs to be fixed. So all the activities of staff today have been trying to diagnose what's happening with this clarifier, what can be done to mitigate damage to it and assess the damage to it. We've done as much as we can through dewatering, monitoring the groundwater levels, the piezometers which were installed, and televising the 20-inch inflow to this clarifier. Not good news. It's time to hire a civil engineer. I'm requesting tonight that we bring Strand Engineering to an active role now that we know more about this clarifier and what has to be done. And I don't know if that means a complete floor replacement or if they can somehow pour another. We don't know yet, but that engineering investment needs to start. This is for $27,400. I would expect the engineering costs to go beyond that. This is probably just to do the initial work to figure out where we're going to go. But then we're going to have to design a bid package, put this out to bid. It could be considered an emergent situation. It is a critical piece of infrastructure. We're in a precarious position not having this infrastructure. We're lucky to have a second one that we can use. But I would say we're compromised, and we should proceed with all due haste to repair this, anticipating a repair in the neighborhood of $500,000. Don't know.
Of how much?
I'm estimating maybe $500,000, but I really won't know until the engineers get in here, analyze the integrity of the floor, do the engineering to determine what it is that needs to happen to this infrastructure to bring it back to full strength and bring it back online to do what it's supposed to do. Right now, it's not able to. That's, I don't know that we have much of a choice in this, but I wanted to kind of explain what's happening, and this is the next step. We need to, in my opinion, bring Strand on to start that work so we can get this thing fixed.
Jim, just a quick question. How much or how little of this project might be covered by insurance, if at all?
We did file the claim. I know we have I believe we have a $50,000 deductible. I'm told we're covered for this within certain, I don't know, I think there was a limit on the engineering that they're going to cover. I don't have all of that information yet. Basically, the next thing the insurance adjuster asked us to do, and they sent an engineer out to look at this as well. They want to see our engineering report. They want to see the initial work from our engineer, Strand, if you approve, to decide what happens next. But I can report back to the board with more specifics once we understand that a little bit better. But yes, I am considering this to be a covered, our general liability to cover this infrastructure. That's what we've been told. This is a covered event.
Right. Trustees, I assume have some questions or not? Any questions regarding this? All right, that's been a good presentation. Then roll call, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Mason?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Dominion?
Yes,
I voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item is consideration and approval of an ordinance approving and adopting a revised employee handbook for the Village of Antioch, Illinois, ordinance number 22-7-41. I'd entertain a motion in a second, waiving the second reading.
So moved.
so moved.
Motion trustee Peterson. Do I have a second, Mary?
Sure.
Second trustee Dominiac. Discussion, please. I know we discussed this at the last board meeting, and Clerk Romine can answer any questions that are coming of the trustees. Any discussion or questions? Hope you all read the whole thing. All right, if not, roll call, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Mason? Peterson?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Dominion?
We lost her.
You lose her?
Oh, wait,
Oh,
there she is.
Hello?
yep.
Dominion?
Yes.
Yeah, oh,
You should turn your lights on.
Is that a
Yeah,
yes?
I'm not seeing anything. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There you go.
We're voting on the handbook right now, Mary.
No, I know that, but, oh, there you are. Okay.
She didn't answer. So no one answered it.
I said yes.
Okay, 5 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next is consideration and approval of an ordinance amending sections 1-11-11 and 1-11-22 of the Antioch Village Code regarding whistleblower protection and hiring of relatives/nepotism, ordinance 22-07-42. Entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So move waiving the second reading.
Motion
Second.
trustee Peterson, second trustee Bluthart. Again, this was the item we discussed last week, and again, Clerk Romine can answer any questions regarding this change. Any discussion?
Just one, if you have the nepotism clause, that can be waived under special circumstances.
The attorney can answer that, I think.
So if you had the best guy for the he's a cousin, that's not an absolute.
Cousin is enough.
Or let's just use a family. The best for the job, we're just gonna say, no, we're not gonna do that, that's not an absolute.
I am pulling it up. I did not prepare. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. I did not draft this. I am not familiar with it. I could take a look at it, but it is passed by ordinance, as the clerk was about to say. And as such, it can be varied by ordinance.
Well, here's a better question for you. So you get 2 police officers, and all of a sudden they fall madly in love, and they become married, and all of a sudden you say, whoa, one's gotta go. Who's the pick?
This isn't supervisory positions.
This is only supervisory positions. Because it used to be some departments had it where if that occurrence happened, one had to go. And if you never can get a promotion because you're saying supervisory, so one was the sergeant.
So if I may, in a case, and it's happened before, the board, as Attorney Vasselli alluded to, the board, I would bring that to the board. If they're a hire that we thought was really, the best fit for the job, but it didn't go according to policy, I would bring that before the board for waiver of policy in that situation.
Trustee Pierce?
I noticed underneath here, we struck the part about family members of elected officials or appointed village officials shall not become employed. So now we're gonna start employing elected family members.
It's potentially possible.
Okay, and that's the same with department directors and village administrators. Can now be employed with their family member.
Usually comes up. It's lifeguards, camp counselors, things like that. So it can't be something where you be supervising your family member, but they would, let's say if my son decided he would like to be a lifeguard, he would be able to become a lifeguard at the pool. That would become possible for this policy.
I personally always told my kids do not work for the village. And second of all, if they are seasonal jobs, there's probably people more deserving than one of my family members. So I'll go support this.
Any proper change? Any other questions or comments? All right, if not, roll call please.
Pierce?
No.
Mason?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Bluthart?
Yes.
Dominion?
Yes.
4 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion carries. Again, we can do this during the committee of the whole, but is there any administrator report for the regular meeting?
The only report I'd like to make is that this afternoon we received our bond rating. S&P rates us before large financial transactions. It's happened several times in the past. I will say this time was an easier call than most. It was definitely a financial analysis and interrogation of our financial practices, from budgeting to how we manage debt and how we keep accounts. And I think we did rather well on the call. Rating came through as AA-, which is a maintained rating. I will forward that to the board so you can read the S&P rating. It's basically to improve our rating. It's blaming our pension funded, how our pension is funded, police pension. That is the main driving force that prevented us from gaining an increase to our rating. What it amounts to is we fund the pension according to statutory requirements. Whatever the law says, that's what we do. S&P views that as a weakness. They view the statutory, the laws that we go by to fund the pension, which we follow. They have viewed that as a weakness because they believe it defers cost, and they don't agree with probably how the law reads to actually get the pensions to be funded properly. So that's, in a nutshell. If you don't want to read the rating, that's basically what it says. It did complement our financial controls, our liquidity, our having a fund reserve, our budget performance year after year. Those things we did rather well in. But just so you know, I will forward that maybe tomorrow to the board so you can read it. You certainly call me if you have questions. But other than that, I don't have any other report tonight. If somebody has questions of me.
Thank you. Village clerk, any report? Any trustee reports other than those that were submitted in writing? Trustee Pierce?
I just want to compliment the Public Works Department on all their hard work over the 4th of July and the month of July. I know it's been a hot month and lots of activities taking place that they've been essential to completing. Other than that, I would ask that on the committee of the whole, we have a discussion placed on there about our ordinance on commercial vehicle parking within the village.
Well, could you repeat what you said at the end, Trustee Pierce?
I said I would like to have on the next committee of the whole a discussion placed about the commercial vehicle policy parking within the village limits.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
My trustee report is looking for my defense update. It's coming on where we don't have any movement on the fence at the police department. 3 months into it. It's getting to be the nicknames. They call it the bike trail fence. I love nicknames. Love nicknames.
I feel like Jim wants to.
I can only say that the final adjustments are being made to the plans. I hope to have it out to bid shortly. It's not a simple defense project. It's a project. I was trying to get some cooperation from the church behind. Some of the facilities as they exist today are on their property. I was not successful in securing cooperation with the church, so there was another plan modification made to make sure we weren't encroaching onto the church property in any way, staying on the bounds of the property we control with the project. It required a plan adjustment. The fence or wall / fence in the front has been incorporated into the bid package. It's been designed. So there's one last week, and as of last week, when I checked with HR Green, this should be going out to bid very shortly.
So instead of me asking, can we get maybe an email update occasionally?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Trustee Peterson.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Parks Department and the Park Board for all their hard work for the 4th of July festivities. Gave 110%, and it was very good considering what happened to our neighbors and how it all came down. I think that you kept your level heads and you did a very good job. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Trustee Bluthart, anything? I'll come back. Trustee Dominiak?
Yes, I have first have a question. Are we going to do a break?
Yes, we're gonna do a break.
Okay, because Lori or Rachel, if you could call me, I keep getting kicked off. So I just wanted to give everybody a quick update on the downtown beautification projects that we all said we wanted to move forward on. Obviously, we know that the ghost signs are in process of being developed and priced out so that we can. But the team's been meeting on a weekly basis, and we had an arborist who visited yesterday. He looked at the downtown trees and the Sawmill Park. He's going to make some recommendations. He said our trees are in pretty good shape, so that's good news. And these are the trees on Main Street. Michael's achieved permission from all the building owners where we want to hang the string lights, and those, it's been measured, and he's going to order those. So we just need to find someone to hang them. So we've reached out to a couple companies for that. The plantings, we initially had hoped to do plantings on Top Street in August, but the recommendation of the Garden Club was we wait until September. That's a better time for planting and enhances the survivability of the plants that we put in. So Director Garrigan is going to work with the Antioch Garden Club to go to the nursery to order the plantings that have been recommended by them, and probably and price out having them do it. Sorry, are you there?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm getting kicked off. Anyway, so the nursery would guarantee the plants for a year or so if they plant them. In terms of the crosswalks, we had a lot of discussion about that. Mike is getting the costs for the stencils. And I think I've lost you again, no? Okay, he's going to reach out to Northbridge Church and Fisher Paper to see if we can get volunteers for that. And we talked about trash enclosures. That's a work in progress. And I think that's about it at this point. So lots going on there, and it continues to move forward. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Pierce, do you have one more comment?
Yeah, this is more for the attorney and the mayor, and probably Trustee Masick, since he's liaison. Over the last couple of weeks, our police department's been working very hard at resolving arrests concerning automobile break-ins and neighborhood break-ins and stuff. And when it comes time to implement the law and rely upon our state's attorney's office, there is no support, and it makes it more difficult for our police department. Is there any actions we can take to request his help and more concern for our police department? Can we send him a letter saying I need more support?
For the record, no, prior to this, Attorney Vasselli and I did meet with the state attorney. I believe Chief Gutchow also had a one-on-one meeting with the state's attorney, but we can request that again, given that, you know, at that time we're having break-ins and less arrests. I believe the police department has done a really good job recently catching some of these perpetrators, and be curious to see the facts on what the proposed penalties were or the resolution on those matters. So maybe we'll gather some of that with Jeff and the village attorney and set up another sit down with the state's attorney.
What concerns me is our police officers are being handcuffed as much as the criminals are. That's not right.
I came down from the government that we took community.
Cash bonds. So yes, we will definitely talk to our local state's attorney. Wish we could talk to the Cook County State's Attorney too, but we don't have that luxury. So, all right. Anything else? Otherwise, I ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Motion Trustee Blumenthal. Second Trustee Masick. Roll call, please.
Pierce?
Aye.
Peterson?
Yes.
Whitmer?
Yes.
Minnie?
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meetings adjourned until 7:46 p.m. 7:41 now. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:56. This is the committee of the whole meeting. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce?
Present.
Trustee Mason? Trustee Peterson? Trustee Luther?
Here.
Trustee Berman is absent. Trustee Dominiac?
Here,
Present. First item is the approval of the July 13th, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. Do I have a motion and a second? So moved. Motion trustee Masek, second trustee Peterson. Roll call, please.
Pierce?
I'm gonna abstain again.
Mason?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Dominiac?
yes,
4 voting yes, 1 abstaining, motion carries. No citizens wishing to address the board at this point, and no mayoral report, so we will move on to business. The regular business, the first item is a request related to the operation of non-highway vehicles on village streets. We have a presentation from Dan Black and Brittany Church. If you would mind coming up here to the microphone and make sure you speak in the microphone so they can hear you on Zoom. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. This that I'm handing out is just the frequently asked questions from Johnsburg. Some of them I thought were actually pretty good. Thank you so much. We also. Okay, first and foremost, I would like to thank all board members, trustees, for your time tonight listening to us propose the Johnsburg Article 1515 non-highway vehicle permit and adopting it into the Title 7 for the Village of Antioch. Also known as golf carts being legal on our village roads. 2 things I'd like to add. One thing is we're not reinventing the wheel here. This is already an adopted ordinance in many communities, as you'll hear later on in the slide deck. Many communities have already adopted this. And also, if you do have questions, please feel free to hold off till the end because it may be answered in the slide deck, and we'll be trying to be vigilant about time here tonight. A little bit about myself. My name is Daniel Black. I work for the local power company. I have for about 12 years. I went to Antioch High School I went to Antioch schools from first grade through high school. Absolutely love this town. I love this community so much. I have 4 children that I'm growing, in this community, and we very much, my family, my wife, we love this town very much. A small town feel, and we're very proud to support it in any way that we can. And my committee member, Brittany, just tell you a little about herself.
Hi, my name is Brittany Church. I've lived in Northern Lake County my whole life. About to start my 13th year in education in a nearby school district. Previously taught middle school English for 8 years. The last 4 I was the curriculum and instruction specialist for secondary English for our district. And this year I'm starting a new role as the department chair for middle school English. My husband and I recently moved with our 3 children to Antioch last fall. So I'm a newer resident to Antioch. However, he and his family have lived here their whole lives. His brother, his parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. So it's very near and dear to our hearts. And our kids have loved living here since their very first day of school. And I attribute that quick acclimation, especially in the middle school year, to the residents and the families in Antioch. All right, so we just wanted to provide some background of the initial rationale for wanting to adopt this ordinance. Dan and I both live in the woods of Antioch, so it's a little bit of a bigger subdivision that connects to other residential areas. It's very close to 2 farms. So sometimes it seems silly to pack up our kid and get in a car and drive to a friend's house 2 minutes down the road. However, based on the age of our children, it sometimes can be too long of a walk or a bike ride for them. So we were just talking like, how fun would it be to hop in a golf cart and just drive down the street instead of getting in our big gas guzzling SUVs. And it would be a fun way for people of all ages to move around, whether you're 1 or 100. There's something about the novelty of a golf cart and how it makes you feel and the wind on your face and that summer. It's just fun for everybody. It also can help build a sense of community within Antioch. You could potentially have more neighborly interactions with each other. You know, if I'm riding on a golf cart and somebody's passing me, it's something to stop and talk about, whether we've known each other for years or a new community member that you would be speaking to. It also could provide another means of transportation to get to community events and to promote our downtown area and our businesses. You know, there's a lot of foot traffic in our downtown area already. However, golf carts could increase that, and more on the how will be coming in later. And like Dan mentioned, this has been successful in other communities, and we feel confident that if done the right way, this could be great for Antioch as well.
So, and again, the multiple communities around us that have adopted this already is a sign that we should stay with the times in this town, and we should keep that resort feel that we strive to achieve. The ILCS 625 ordinance adoption is a state legal adoption. We also have it in our titles here in our chapters here in Antioch. The Johnsburg ILCS Article 1515 is in 2014 was written, and a big thank you to the assistant administrator Vinny over in Johnsburg for a lot of the help that he did for us with helping us understand what it is that all of these articles entail. Safety is absolutely at the forefront for us. We'll talk more about that later. The HOAs that are on board with this already is tremendous. They like it for a lot of reasons, having, you know, clubhouses, having waterfronts that they want to try and get to, especially with your kids. That sense of community is just tremendous with this. And I always like to say, who doesn't wave to somebody on a golf cart? I mean, you're always in a good mood unless you're not having a good day on the course. But and another thing too is just to make up understanding that we can amend this in any way to make this unique to us in our own way, how it makes us feel, the police chief, however it makes everybody feel the safest with whatever amendments we need to make to 1550.
All right, so after our initial conversation, we did some research and we want to know, like, why does this feel like a good fit for Antioch? You know, it has to be more than just a feeling. There has to be some concrete evidence that proves this would be a good fit. So the adoption of this ordinance actually aligns to 3 of the 6 core values of our village and their mission statements. So the small town atmosphere, to me, this is, like as Dan has mentioned, the epitome of Antioch. It's something that I've seen people not only cherish about our community, but it's a huge sense of pride. People are proud to be from Antioch because of the small town feel. What's more small town than a golf cart and riding around, and again, promoting that resort lifestyle? Carts could further this unique kind of feeling while also increasing the downtown being a focal point for all of us. In terms of pedestrian connectivity, carts will provide an additional means of transportation for residents while giving them more access to local businesses, community events, and connecting to one another. And it would encourage more of these quicker drives as opposed to going over the border or going to Gurnee or going to Vernon Hills. If you can ride your golf cart, you'll be more likely to stay in town. And then in terms of entertainment, recreation, and active healthy lifestyles, again, it's a fun way to travel, and it encourages residents to stay local, to attend what events we already have that go on in our community, in addition to providing potential opportunities to increase those events and add to those, which we'll again talk about the how of that on a later slide. All right, so as Dan mentioned, we're parents in the community, and safety has been our biggest priority throughout our talks of this ordinance for those who are riding on golf carts and off. So I just want to be known that the Illinois rules of the road would still need to be followed on these golf carts. They would be treated as any other street legal vehicle like a car or motorcycle. In order to be street legal, the carts must be modified to meet the Illinois state requirements for in the right-hand column of that slide. And as an added safety measure, carts would need to be inspected and get permitted annually to ensure that they are street legal and can be ridden on the village streets. As an added safety measure, they would only be permitted on village roads whose speed limit are 35 miles an hour and under. And we would, just through conversations with other stakeholders in the community, we recommend that as citizens are getting their golf carts inspected and getting that permit, that they're also handed a map of the village so it is very clear where they can and cannot ride their golf carts, and allowing them to ask somebody questions and plan their routes ahead of time instead of having to guess if my golf cart is okay on the street or if it's not. Also, through those conversations, we feel that potentially a seasonal permit would be appropriate. That way we're minimizing golf carts in icy conditions, snowy conditions, and those could be hard deadlines set by the team in this room, or it could work similarly as a golf course works. Like if we have a week in March that's super nice, maybe a email blast goes out to residents saying golf carts can start being permitted and be ridden now. Or if we have an unseasonable snowstorm on Halloween, like we did a few years ago, that could be a similar blast where like no golf carts today, even though it might be in the season.
Just a strong emphasis from, to reiterate what Brittany said, is that this is gonna be ours, it's gonna be unique to us. We don't have to go with this, everything that Johnsburg has. We can change things around. One of the things is we're gonna be removing side-by-sides, and based on the FOIA, the only issues that they have been with the side-by-sides. And the gentleman who wrote it, that has been helping us as well, said if he could change anything, he would take those off. We don't have a trail system, we have no need for it.
All right, so this is just a quick snapshot of a draft of what potentially that map of Antioch could look like for those golf carts permitted streets. So again, something like this is what we would want to pass out to residents. We also have a sample of the map Fox River Grove and Johnsburg pass out. You guys can pass around and just peek through. And this is just a draft of, and just to give us a big picture idea. But as you can see from this proposed map, the vast majority of our residents would have access to downtown through via golf cart and or other subdivisions.
Which is great for business. We're gonna be, money can come from the registration, which we'll get to in a little bit. But the foot traffic and the parking is an absolute problem downtown right now. I think a lot of businesses would agree with it. If we can have two cars double up in a regular parking spot, or have two, have golf cart parking, it's in their own section. Just brings more revenue in town. You can't, like Brittany stated, you can't take that golf cart into Wisconsin like everybody else seems to be doing. And again, reiterate that this map will be given out at inspection time. So everybody will know where is acceptable to drive that golf cart, where is not, and further, we will be hopefully raising some money and getting some signage going as well, entrances of subdivisions, and where's off limits and where within limits. If you look at this slide, and again, safety has been a huge thought for us. We're both parents. We don't want to have any issues. Kids, if they want to go on the cart, they got to listen to the rules. They got to follow the rules just as well as if they're in the car. Seatbelts, upright position, 90 degrees, no hanging off of the cart. We did remove side-by-sides to eliminate the potential of the, what if I could go 80 down the road? We don't want that. That's not what we're trying to get by this.
Yeah, essentially with these golf carts, we're taking away vehicles that could speed on our village streets, since the golf carts would hit the max speed of 35 miles an hour.
The inspection process as well can be done by village members, CSOs, and again, this is however we want to move forward with this. They can, we can choose who can inspect them, who can't inspect them. But the fact that there's so many communities out here in Illinois already doing this, it's just tremendous to me. I didn't even think it was a thing. Johnsburg right now has 400 carts and they have 400 carts and side-by-sides. And again, we're removing side-by-sides, so they have 363 golf carts. They have 363 golf carts already registered in the community, and they don't even have a downtown like we do. So imagine, the potential numbers that we have in our community and what it can do for our downtown.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, in terms of any traffic concerns, the street legal golf carts, again, would only be on village streets that are 35 miles an hour and under, and they wouldn't impede on current traffic patterns because they would function similar to your car. So you're not adding vehicles. I'm driving my golf cart instead of my car today. So as we know, the future of vehicles is going electric. We would anticipate that many, if not most people, would vouch for an electric golf cart if this is approved, especially with the way gas prices are here and now. So this is just a small snapshot of how potentially adding electric golf carts and having residents ride those around town instead of their cars could positively affect the environment as well.
Rules outside of ordinance and recommendations. This is like my favorite part because I just see it being so tremendous to our town, not only for the sense of community, but also the sense of money. And, one thing that was brought to mind, I'm riding down 59. I see people on their pedal bikes crossing from Heron Harbor over 59. And in my mind, I'm like, if we can start generating revenue from this and we can help make a pathway with flashing lights, with something that can cross that subdivision into the downtown, not only do we bring them downtown, but we also just made it safer for that person that was on that pedal bike before we even had any crossing or any sort of a safe crossing for them to cross 59 and 173 eventually.
Yeah, so again, as a team of those of us in this room, we could have conversations to determine the very specifics and the details, but however, based on our research of other communities, these are some of the recommendations we have that have been proven to be successful elsewhere, such as the annual fees. So we are recommending $100, which will cover $75 for the registration and $25 for that safety inspection approved by a village personnel. And again, none of this is set in stone. This is all up for conversation, but just a starting point of some thoughts that we have. And Dan mentioned the crossings, which would be very helpful. I think of our residents in Heron Harbor, who, as it is now, wouldn't have access to our downtown area. So if we could provide a safe crossing for them, they could jog through town and access the downtown area as well as other communities that are kind of bound by 173 and 59 and 83. And then in terms of tickets, obviously Chief Gottschall and the Antioch Police Department could reserve the right to remove or suspend, these permits and registrations from residents if they are being unsafe or reckless. We could implement something similar to other fees where, maybe first time's a warning, the second time is a $75 ticket, then the next time is $100. Like, we could flush all those details out together and figure out how we want that to look if people are being unsafe to kind of deter that. All right, so again, I think all of us in this room, or definitely most of us, are guilty of going over the border into Wisconsin or Gurnee or Vernon Hills to spend money to save money, which does take revenue away from our local businesses. By adopting this ordinance, golf carts would help keep residents of Antioch in town to support local and socialize with community members more so. By saving on gas, in theory, more of our residents would have more discretionary income, even in this economy, to spend locally and support all of our local businesses that are near and dear to our hearts.
So just from the aspect of what it does for the community again, I'm gonna drive around and pull into my neighbor's driveway that I see him with a golf cart. And, hey, hi, how are you? And that's what small town's about, right? We have this resort feel that we try and strive for, but even that local community just in your subdivision is tremendous to me. I'm a bit more outgoing than most, and they probably want me to leave if I keep talking, but it's just an honest, awesome feel in town, and we absolutely love it. If there's other opportunities here for community as well, and that would be parades. We could do park cruises, we could do parades. Imagine the 4th of July, which I know our parade is probably one of the best. 50 or 100 or shoot 1,000 golf carts lined up down the street, and you're sitting with your kids having a good time and these amazing day to celebrate.
Yeah, or I would think of, I know fishing has no boundaries, having a fundraiser in the upcoming weeks. How great would it be that you could enter your golf cart in a golf cart decorating contest by making a small donation, and then at the event, residents could purchase raffle tickets that also go to the cause in order to cast their votes on which golf cart is the winner. Just something as small as that, bringing more people together and trying to help within the village and help with charities. I think it would be really, really positive for our village.
We very much enjoy it, and I know I often refer to Antioch as the center of the world. We do love our town very, very much, we really want to strive by our slogan of Antioch is authentic by nature and present in community. So disconnect from your phone and hang out with your kids. Enjoy your time and not kids. Hang out with your significant other and enjoy that. Be present in the community. Very much agree with that. Committee member Brittany and myself would like to thank you for your time tonight. We have questions if you guys, we have time for questions. Hopefully if you guys have.
Trustee Pierce?
Oh, they know I have questions.
So like the whole time I'm stuck.
All right, first question I got, well, just let me tell you, I think this is an exciting proposition. I know Salem Lakes just went with the golf carts. Haddock Lake, my sister lives in South Carolina, they've had golf carts for 20 years, I think. So I'm excited about this, but I do have concerns about it. The first one is about the parking spaces. I like you mentioned reserved areas for golf carts, because if I was a car driver and I pulled up and I'm like, that's reserved, that's a car parking space, why are there 2 golf carts? I could just see my head exploding.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want anybody's head.
Yeah, no,
That's not
we don't want that.
That's not pretty. So I would be interested in reserved parking areas for golf carts.
Okay.
Sure.
Additionally, this is a big change for Antioch. There's gonna be a lot of issues that pop up through the first year.
Yeah.
I also, this may be something the attorney state knows, is it possible to?
He knew I was gonna ask a question. He doesn't want to earn his money.
If I could just chime in on that too. So we did do a lot of research with some of your board members helping us out that there is no effect on the insurance for the village. The insurance, because they're independently insured. So, because I called just to try and verify that there wasn't going to be any issue with it, with the village's insurance, and they said no. And only, it actually goes under your homeowner's policy when you try and get it. You know, there's people that are well versed in insurance. You know, being under your homeowner's insurance policy, I was supposed about $100. So.
Okay. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I noticed I was speaking away from the microphone, getting carried away there a little bit. My point is now that the attorney's back, we killed a few seconds there. If we put an ordinance like this in place, is there something we can put in there that we have to revisit it within 1 year for needed changes and improvements?
Sunset, Mr. Chair, if I may, absolutely, we can put a sunset provision in there and have it reviewed and brought back to the board 365 days or 364 days.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be for us to do so, especially as it's a new thing for our community.
And that is the practice of this village too. We have done that in other issues before.
Okay, so then the next question is, well, there are probably 2 combined questions. The police department, currently they're already stressed by people with non-compliant golf carts that are out driving around. You got people driving go-karts with their toddlers in their laps. You got the little mini bikes that they bought at Walmart for $50, zipping all over the place.
If I could say the way I would combat that, and again, this is my own opinion, is to hit them with a harsh and stiff fine to begin with. If you're doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, increase the fine instead of just a $75 fine like they used to have with fireworks on the 4th of July, where it was nothing. People just paid the fine because they wanted to have a good time. If you hit them with something stiff, it lets you know that this is substantial, this is serious, this isn't messing around. Well, if there's opportunity for it.
Additionally, Chief Gutcha was one of the first people our committee reached out to kind of get his thoughts and ideas. And Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong, but since these carts would be treated as any other street legal vehicle like a car, it would not impede on already routines and schedules and expectations of him and his staff.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say for the inspection side of it, there really isn't any, anything specific to who has to do the inspection. Johnsburg says a village member can walk out and do the inspection. It's a checklist, we both sign off on it.
And then the only other thing I noticed on your map, you had 4th Avenue, Tiffany, and East Depot as open roads to drive on. I don't know if you've ever walked on those or driven on those. They are not 35-mile-an-hour roads.
Yeah, so there's a few things with the map, and that's just a prototype for, and we just based it lightly off of how Johnsburg did theirs. We actually really liked what Fox River Grove did with their map. But the law states, or the ordinance states, any road at 35 or under can be driven on a golf cart. It can only be crossed on 35 and over, so perpendicular.
That's what we base the map on. Again, that's up for conversation and discussion. If we feel that certain roads like North Avenue would be unsafe to start out with, we can certainly eliminate that.
Just make it a cross.
Yeah, I'd like to have that discussion because
Of course.
I know they're posted 35. I've always fought for speed bump. I don't want a golf cart to be speed bump.
Yes.
Correct. And I back up to North Avenue, so I understand your concern.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Mason?
All right, first of all, you don't want to put a golf cart on a homeowner's house. Medicals, family members, bad idea, you put on a house. Insurance has to be done. Okay, bad idea.
Trustee Mason, could you speak into the microphone?
I said you don't put a golf cart on a homeowner's policy. Your medical for family members excluded.
I just went off of what was said from Allstate in town.
Yeah, that's a bad,
And maybe it scares me about the other policies that I have with them too.
yeah,
Maybe I should look into it.
yeah, bad advice. So, second, here's a picture of a kid.
Yeah.
No seatbelts.
So the law states no seatbelts.
So here's the reason I say this. Here's the reason I paid a claim out with a family member. These things have big tires, turned a sharp corner, wife went flying. Fight for life. She crushed her face, hit the pavement. Yeah. It was $250,000 to reconstruct her face. Ripped her nose, clean off her face, reconstruction. That's one area where I've got concern. Second area of concern is you said the electric carts, I get it, different than what Mr. McCarty's cart is, I carried that thing coming a mile away. But the other avenue is, when I played Antioch, he's moved, but he used to have a golf cart. He'd have speakers up there and he'd come there and sit there and somehow he always was behind me when I'd say that. I'll say his first name, Jim, stop it. Turn the thing down. It's the worst music ever. And that's the problem. And I don't think we've got the noise meters to sit there and say, we're gonna give it for noise. And then with the electric cars, they're driving in your backyard. You don't want them in your backyard. So I understand we're a resort community, great idea. But then you got Heron Harbor that can't cross 59. People are gonna cross 59. You've got a bunch of other subdivisions that want to. I want to use my golf cart just like everybody else. I want to go. I want to go have a drink. You got people having too many drinks at golf cart. They don't see the difference. So I get your idea. It's a fun thing, but there's a lot of ways to come back. And you go to Heron Harbor, you go up to Oakwood Knolls. That's a lot of way to drive when you had a couple, too many.
Sure, and I think that it's a long way to drive even in a car if you've had too many.
But you leave your golf cart there. Your golf cart's there. You got to call Uber. I don't know. Uber takes forever to come to Antioch, but it's a different concern because you can't lock up your golf carts. And then you got this second situation. I'm driving and it's nighttime and someone's been at a bar, had a couple, 2, 3. The golf carts don't have the visibility, so I hit them. Am I going to be charged because I didn't hit them? I didn't look up. I didn't see a golf cart. I'm going to be charged with.
So there is a luminescent minimum that the headlights have to be, which is very easily checked if you had to during the inspection. I think it was.
Right, but I'm saying past 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, you got golf carts. Do they belong out at night? There's
That's
a lot.
why we can change that in the ordinance.
Yeah,
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because you don't want. I don't think it's a smart idea to have golf carts out to put other drivers at risk of hitting them, just like you don't want a bicycle. They're hard to see.
One,
We can't stop the bicycle.
Oh, no, but I get that, but as you get older, people start getting harder to see at night.
Yeah, understood.
sure, and that's
Not me
something,
though, I'm getting.
that's something, again, it's open for conversation. Maybe for Antioch, it's after dusk, we can't have golf carts for the first year, and then we see how it goes and revisit it next year.
I liked the revisiting side of it, the 365 to sunset that was mentioned. For that simple fact, as long as, if we have to start by just saying subdivisions only, which I don't want, but that's okay, because the big push is to bring business downtown. I mean, that's a huge push for this, but if we have to start there at once we get this approved and whatever our regulations are, and then we want to try and amend them later on, I would be willing to do that as well.
Yeah.
Anything to get it passed.
Completely open for a slow rollout. Again, this is just a starting point for the conversation. So, and we want it to fit Antioch. We don't have to do what anybody else did the exact way they did it, aside from obviously the Illinois state law, but we can make it fit Antioch.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson.
So these vehicles will have horns and
So
tail lights, turn signals.
yeah, so there's a certain luminescent, like I spoke of, that your headlight has to be. There's turn signals, brake lights, Now, seatbelts is not in the ordinance, but we can put it in there. We can make this, again, unique to us. Whatever makes this pass, we will abide by, especially if you want something, you're gonna do what the village tells you, right? If you want to have it pass. A slow-moving placard, now there's other ways of making money instead of doing a vanity plate. What my suggestion would be is that when you do your, when you sign up for your permit on your application, you're given, if you pass or if it's accepted, you're given an orange placard, like a slow-moving vehicle placard, like say a truck pulling some hay has to have going down the road. That has to be on the back of the golf cart. And inside of that, you can put your village registration at the top of the placard, and then underneath it, there'll be a cart number. Now, the stickers are cheaper for the village to make and cheaper for the resident to purchase. So we sell the stickers, you put your sticker on there, and now when the police chief's rolling around, and he, or not the police chief, but when there's police men rolling around, sorry, and they see cart 017 or cart 17, you know, acting not well, you know, pulls them over, and cart 17 is now flagged. Cart 17 is, you know, now they have these reflective stickers on the back of that flag. But everything has to be street legal. Now the decibel with the music, like Mr. Mason was saying, we're okay with it, making it so speakers can't be on after 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock or something along those lines.
Well, and sure, I think through your registration, your card is associated with you as a resident. So if Dan Black is getting 10 complaints about the music, you know, Chief Betchow or another officer can go over and say, Dan, what are you doing? I'm getting all these complaints. You got to tone it down or you're going to get a fine.
Well, I think seatbelts would be a real good thing.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, if you did it, if you did a, actually, you know what, I did forget to thank Jim. He is from Oxford Grove. He's who handed us this map. He is out here with a fully legal golf cart, if you didn't get to see it earlier, and it has everything that we just mentioned.
Including seatbelts.
Including the seatbelts, more than what your standard golf cart's gonna be. But so I wanted to give a big thank you to him for doing that for us today.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, as long as the our ordinances are in line with this ordinance, when it comes before us, I don't have a problem.
Thank you, Trustee Bluthart.
A lot of what I was thinking has already been asked, but one thing I'd like to state is I like the idea. I think it definitely is worth trying. So I like the either expiring on it, we have to renew it, however that's going to work. I do have some questions regarding HOAs, and I don't know if I asked them or him or who, but if an HOA decides they don't want those, does that oversee this ordinance?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Trustee, that is a different body of law. That is the body of law that regulates the homeowners association itself, governed usually by bylaws and conditions, covenants of record. So it would not it wouldn't supersede it, but you would be limited because you'd have to abide by their homeowner rules.
So we could pass this, and an HOA could say they are not going to allow them.
Exactly.
We've had really good traction from HOAs in support of it, very much so. One of them being Clovis, because they're looking to build a clubhouse and it's a big subdivision, and there's actually a lot of carts already there. So,
my only other thought right now is in regards to penalties for abusing the right to walk on a golf.
Yeah.
And this is a concern because I know as a kid I used to do it, and everyone else does it. You know, you can be following all the rules as the parents, but your 13-year-old kid sitting at home and you're not there, and he takes that golf cart out. And I think any ordinance that we put through is going to have to put that weight on you guys as the parent, where
yes,
and it's going to be hefty. It's going to have to be some hefty penalties because these can be abused very easily. These can go up on people's grass. They can go in other things, and even adults will do that. So we're going to need to make sure that it's you know, if we go with this, that you guys are on alert, or whoever ends up buying a golf cart and using them, that you could lose them just as quick as these were approved.
Yeah,
Because,
and I would like to use that terminology when we do the application and we hand them the maps and the keys, maybe we could come out with a wristband or something, not wrist, you know, stretchy ones that you put it on your keys and it's like bright orange or fluorescent orange, so you know to pull your key, you know, or take the key when you get home so your kids don't take it, something along those lines.
yeah, but I mean, I think it's a great idea, at least in the neighborhoods. I like the idea downtown. I don't know how that's gonna work with the certain roads not being drivable.
Yeah.
You know, parking is gonna be an issue, but I think that's workable. So I think it's something that we can definitely should move forward on, but I wanna really focus on putting the responsibility on the golf cart owners, users. Number one, and then number two is, I want to make sure that the cost that the village incurs to do this upfront are that we're making sure that we're getting those covered. Because there's going to be a lot of upfront costs, training officers or whoever's going to do these inspections, signage for around the village, things like that, that we might not have down the road, but we're going to have initially. And I don't know whether we're going to have 50, 100, or 1,000, like you said. It might take 10 years to get to 1,000. These are not cheap vehicles. And what's the average price of let's say a used or a nicely roadworthy golf cart?
Comfortably 4,000 to 7,000. If you're
that one outside was a little bit more than 4,000 to 7,000.
That one's fully loaded brand new.
It's about 13,000.
Okay.
So I agree 100% that whatever we need to do to make this work.
And then one more question for the chief. Do you know, Chief, if someone is stopped on one of these, let's say for a DUI or something like that, is it handled like a boat, kind of like where it's just like on your auto license and everything else?
Yes.
Okay, so it is.
Yeah, many of the violations would be treated just as if you were operating a motor vehicle. You know, so if you're speeding in a golf cart, you're subject to the same regulations.
It's the same. It's just like being in a car. It's just that they're in a.
Right.
Yeah. I like this idea a lot better than those little blue cars driving around Lake Geneva.
Another thing also is with the signage. I was gonna say, and we will help with anything, Brittany and myself. I was gonna say maybe talk about sponsorship from businesses that could benefit from it, as well as, you know, any site where maybe they want to get 2 rentals, they can start to generate revenue from that, or you know, the generation, the revenue of insurance, as Jason said, maybe that's you know, that's more business.
I don't want to turn it into snowmobile trails.
No.
But that's
This is
essentially
a-
what
No,
John
no.
predicted. That's all the advertisements on Johnsburg's map was helping fund those initial costs for the signage and all that.
Okay.
It'd be a nice entryway to get some funds built up for that line item right out of potential.
That's all for now.
All right, thank you. Trustee Dominiac?
A lot of what has been said, I have been thinking about, you know, I think conceptually this is a great idea. I like the idea, but I think there's a lot that needs to be done before we can implement this. And I know that, you know, there's a goal here. One of the goals was to get the 59 and 173 situation figured out by April of 2023, which is right around the corner when you think about getting this done. You know, I'm supportive of this being inside the neighborhoods, the subdivisions. I like the idea of trying to figure out how to get people from here in Harbor, where I live, into downtown. I think that's great, but I think that's going to require some work with IDOT for the crossings at 59 and 173. I think this is going to be somewhat of an iterative, maybe phased process. I also have been thinking about this, and you know, I think you've got North Avenue and you've got Depot Street included here. My concern there is, although the speed limits on those roads are anywhere from 35 to 30, no one really travels at that speed, and I'm concerned about potential for cars, particularly on North Avenue when you go west of 83. That's a pretty wide open road, and people don't follow the speed limit. You know, Depot Street may be a little bit better because the bike path is there, and maybe we say that on Depot Street, you have to stay on the bike path. I don't know. I guess these are things that are popping up into my mind. So I'm wondering if, I think what we might want to consider is maybe put a small working group together that would include police, staff, these people that have brought this really great idea together, forward, maybe someone from the board, whatever, to sit down and start taking all of this information that's been shared tonight and come back with kind of a revision and some ideas about how we could make this work in Antioch. You know, I think moving forward, it makes sense. I like the thinking. I think you've done a fabulous job of putting all your thoughts together and your recommendations and the work that you've done. You really researched this. I wish other projects would have this depth of research and scrutiny, but I'd like to see a small group sit down with all of this feedback and try and figure out how we could make this work in Antioch and how we might phase it and protect the residents that live on some of these busier streets.
Yeah, and Dan and I would love to be a part of whatever the task force that is.
It's really up to the mayor and the staff to make that decision, but I just think a smaller group could kind of take this and crunch it and take another look at it and come back to us.
So unless there's an objection from the board, I would ask that staff work with the presenters and also the village attorney to look at the state ordinance and some of the local ordinances. I guess as well as the police chief to see what roads would make sense and maybe come up with some kind of proposal. I know that would take some time. We're already getting into the fall season, so I'm guessing, you know, government doesn't work that fast. Probably, you know, you're probably looking at 2023 for, like, you know, to start actually being able to use the vehicles, but, you know, maybe in the next 30 days, we come back with maybe some research from staff and the police and the attorney. Does that work for the board? All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys. All right. Speaking of parking, next item, discussion regarding curbside pickup at Main and Lake Street. We have Director Garrigan, and I know we also earlier this evening had Helen from Vegas Cafe sign up to speak. So I'll let Director Garrigan start, and then I'll let, whenever you want to speak, just come up here to the.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you recall, back in 2020, during the COVID emergency crisis, the village approved a special ordinance, or actually, I'm sorry, a special provision to allow businesses along Main Street and Lake Street to have pickup service based on the state's mandate, local mandates, which prohibited indoor dining. And we've had recently discussions over the past month. The village board has brought this issue up, and pursuant to the village board direction, actually the first correspondence went out back in May, advising the businesses that those provisions allowing dedicated parking spaces to be used for pickup areas or pickup zones was specifically being rescinded by the village, and they were advised to cease and desist. Based on the last discussion the board had, the board staff sent out another letter, again requesting that those businesses stop having curb pickup along Main Street and Lake Street. Specifically, at that point, there were, I think, 3 businesses that were using these pickup zone areas. Based on the last correspondence or discussions, I've had a request from the owner of Vegas to present her case and her case for hardship based on your direction of ceasing this. So with that, I provide a very brief summary of the owner's position, but I think it'd be most appropriate at this point to allow the owner of Vegas to present her request for relief from your direction, and to demonstrate her proposed or her outlined hardship. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Helen.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for letting us do curbside during the pandemic. It really helped. To my surprise, it's continued to be very busy. It still makes up 17% of our sales, which I think is kind of significant. Prior to COVID, carryout orders were like nothing. We'd have a couple a day. It was something that we didn't do regularly. It wasn't a big deal. My servers still continue to make money doing this because they actually take the call. I don't know if you guys have taken advantage of it, but you call in your order, we ask what kind of car you have, you pull up right in front and we bring the bag out to you. I think that it's more of a convenience for people, and that's what they like about it. It's kind of like a drive-through. I know some people have said like, oh, why don't you just move it to the back? I don't think it'll be the same, honestly, because if we do it to the back, I would just have people coming into the restaurant. There's no easy way to get in and out, and we can't see them from where our register is and where the bags are. If you walked in from the back door, it's like booths and then the kitchen, so you can't see. So people would have to actually call in to say, hey, I'm here. And honestly, sometimes we're so busy with the phone calls for curbside that I end up taking the phone off the hook because we just cannot keep up with them. So that's why I'm asking to keep it. I mean, I'd be more than happy to revisit it in 3 to 6 months to see, is it truly convenience or is it still people scared from the pandemic? I mean, I think it's the convenience, but I'd be willing to see if it was anything different. The other thing is we have the signs out there from 7 to 3 every day. A lot of businesses don't even open until 10 or 11. A lot of them are even closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I know that parking is an issue. I mean, there are more businesses on Main Street and Lake Street than there are parking spaces on those streets. However, I honestly don't think that me giving up those 2 is going to make a significant difference for everybody else. That's just my own personal opinion, but I know that you guys allowed Oliveri to have the 2 parking spots for their outdoor dining, and it's really nice. I'm not picking on Oliveri. I love it. I think it's really nice, but they can only use it maybe 6 months out of the year. The rest of the time, those spots are gone completely. The other thing is we have so many parking spots for village employees in the back of where between Toft and Main Street. And I don't know why we need those reserved for everybody. Like my staff, it's mandatory. I make my staff park across the street in the 6-hour parking, definitely on Saturday and Sunday. And I recommend for them to do it during the week. I'm not such a stickler. But on the weekends I do. I like literally make them move their car if they haven't parked over there, just to allow more parking for guests and customers to be in town. So that's my case.
All right. Good job. Trustee Pierce.
I'm curious to hear what the rest of the board has to say.
Oh, she's kidding.
Okay.
Speaking to the microphone.
Please speak into the microphone.
All right, I'm speaking on the microphone. Could you do just one?
No, because people do not know how to parallel park. I thought about that. Honestly, I have.
No, I agree with what you're saying. Here's my thoughts. And you know, we've got one that we should give one to that's 100% of their business is the barber shop.
Yeah.
100% of their business is dropping their dogs off.
Yeah, and you should.
And people are walking expensive dogs across 83 and want to get away, and their loved ones gone. And then you've got, here's we've got, you know, the problem, we've got handicap problems. People can't go to restaurants if they're handicapped. And then we've got the biggest problem Antioch has is the police can't chalk the tires like we used to. We got the apartment owners abuse those front spots and the business owners. So the people that own those businesses, they take those parking spots. We had a fight where there was one attorney and he's got a vanity plate that parked there every time. And we had to yell at the guy. And I mean, that's the biggest problem with parking is you got the upstairs and you got the business people park right in front of their business, so no one else is. And they're there all the time. You know, I thought the best idea, you know, bring back meters 25 cents, at least you know people who was abusing them. Make it a nickel, just so we can write the tickets and get the apartment owners out of it. people get upset with that. But then that would free up the spots for the people that are abusing the parking spot and people that aren't. Because I think that's the biggest issue. You've got the abusers. And we don't have a way of tracking people abusing. If you go out there and you probably go, cars been sitting there for 4 or 5 hours. That's where the parking spot on there.
We're not allowed to mark the tires.
No, they can't. That's Supreme Court rule. They can't do that no more. So that's where you get the quandary. And the quandary is, well, wait a second, we're giving it to this person, why not? So that's where into the way it's like, we're giving favoritisms to Ellen. Why not? And I'm all for going off. So that's. I'm not
Trustee Peters.
I don't want you to get mad at me either. I love coming into your restaurant.
Secretary.
The Oliveri story. The village had to take their sidewalk away and put a big concrete ramp in it with, I don't know what they're called, handicap rails. It blocked their whole sidewalk, almost to their front door. So that's why they got the 2 spots in front, so that they could have their outside dining. It's bad enough that there's a walkway right through their dining area out there. But it's like comparing watermelons to oranges. I mean, you know, the village had to do that to make those shops, they're handicap accessible. And so that's why that was done. As far as your 2 spots in front, one spot would make a big difference on that street. But 2 spots is gonna make a great big difference on that street. And to give those spots to you, we have to think about every business. There is a restaurant right there on Main Street, Station 51. He doesn't have any spots in front. It's a turn lane. You know, he doesn't have parking in the back. It's in the way back behind him. So those apartments above all of those stores on the east side take a lot of parking spots right behind. So if you're gonna park in the back on the east side, you're parking pretty far away. And they need those spots on Main Street. They really do, for people to just pull up, go in, buy some chocolate and leave, or wherever you're gonna go, into one of the little gift stores. Those customers, they're just gonna browse through and leave. They need to be able to have those spots open. And I agree with Trustee Mason. I think they should be designated customers only, and the building owners can't park there. Or the people that live upstairs cannot park on Main Street. They have to park in the back. If you know, we're gonna make an issue of this, it should be a fair issue for everyone. And these decisions I hate making. I really do. You know, it's hard sometimes, but doing the right thing is sometimes the hardest thing to do. And I'm sorry, but I really am in favor of lifting the curbside pickup, and possibly those people can call you and, you know, or run in and pick up. But I just, in order to be fair, to think of every single business in the village, I have to do that. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Trustee Luther.
I like the soup too much, so I'm not gonna get her mad at me.
See?
But I am going to suggest something to the board and the village on this issue, because I agree with what everyone's saying regarding during COVID and how we had to do this. But I also understand the desire of these businesses like Parker Shop to have a drop off, or Vegas to have their pickup. Is there anything we can do where the pedestrian walkway is, possibly to make the first spot or two customer pickup spots that are limited to 15-minute parking, kind of like what's across from Oliver's now, where they wouldn't have to necessarily parallel park, they'd be able to come in on an angle a little more. But it would be open to all of the businesses on that side of the street. If we did that on each side, it would be fair to all the businesses and would give them all an opportunity. Now, it might not be a perfect solution where it's right in front of your restaurant, but it would be down a little bit, but it would still be a place where it would be known that they could pull up there and see. I mean, I'd like to see something like that because honestly, you go in there on a weekend morning, your business is flourishing, and when people are waiting, they're all walking around and hitting the stores. I want to make sure you survive there. I want to do stuff to help all of the businesses, but I understand that the same things. We can't do it for every, like you said, there's more businesses than parking spots. So we can't do it for all of them, but there's gotta be something we can do. We're spending money and going to spend money down the road, beautifying downtown. Might be a nice opportunity to take one of those spots or two spots on each side and turn those into short-term parking. Might not be the perfect solution for what you're looking for, but it would give you something in front that would be easier than having to go in back and everything else in the back of your facility. But those are things, I just don't see if maybe there's something outside the box that we could look at to try to help them. And you know, whether it's an hourly thing, because I agree with you, because a lot of the businesses don't open till later. So maybe you're allowed to do that for certain hours. And I think we need to look at ways of helping not just her business, but all the businesses downtown. And if Barker Shop needs something like this, we should be open to listening to what they suggest and everything else. But obviously we're gonna have to have limits, but I think we need to find a solution to this. And because COVID has caused a lot of these restaurants and other places to change their way of business. A lot of people aren't gonna come back into sitting down. They wanna come and get food, and we don't want to have our restaurants have to move to places where they can have a drive-through or something else. So I think it's a viable, very viable business downtown. I think we need to try to find a solution that might not be perfect, but would help you out and help all the businesses out downtown. But I don't know what that is. I wasn't on the board when Oliver's issue came up. That was the first time I've heard an explanation on that issue. And I don't want to be into that. We did it for them. We did it for these guys. So I think we need to look at the downtown as a whole and come up with some type of solution to help these guys out. Because if we did one on each side, it would hit up. What do we have? 2 restaurants on yours, 3 restaurants on your side of the street. I mean, I have 4 or 5 on the other now. I think doing that for all of them would be something that maybe all of them could get behind, and part of the beautification thing where we're talking about putting forks and this, maybe you paint those spots with those, and it's just another helpful thing for our businesses downtown. So I don't know what the solution is or if it's even doable, but I'd like to pursue something like that to see if we can help her restaurant and others.
Thank you. Trustee Dominiac?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Trustee Blue Dart, and I think that's an interesting idea. I think we should, if we're going to start thinking about other solutions, that we should have a meeting with all of the businesses. And I would suggest that until we come up with that solution, in fairness to the other businesses that are being impacted by this, that we take away the curbside pickup. Ellen, I know it's not your preference, but you do have the back door. And I know I haven't used the curbside pickup since you reopened to go inside, but I do remember when first did it, you did have to call to say that you were there so someone could come out. So I think that there are enough businesses on Main Street that have raised this as a concern for their businesses. And we need to come up with something that's going to be fair, and we can't make a decision tonight. First of all, because to your point, Trustee Bluthart, we don't know what the solution is, but I think we need to engage the other businesses who have brought forward to all of us that they're very concerned about the fact that these 2 spaces are being used. I can certainly understand, what you're saying, Helen, about maybe not being open on Monday, but some of the businesses are open on Monday. And, you know, they're open until maybe 5 or 6 o'clock. And if you have those spaces till 3 o'clock, even if they open at 10, you're still taking the majority of the time that they're open. So I have to concur with Trustee Peterson. I think that we need to be fair to everybody. And at this point in time, I think we need to take those signs away. You can redirect people to the back. You've got those spaces back there, and then we can sit down and try and come up with a solution that addresses the needs of everybody on Main Street and not just 1 or 2 businesses. I also, you know, I agree that I had talked with the mayor a couple weeks ago about putting up signs that say customer only parking, because there are a couple business owners that park all day long on the street. And I think Helen's comment about the staff parking, that was another thing that I made a note of, wondering if we shouldn't think about putting the staff across the street over by the well house in that parking lot, and that would open up, what, 7 or 8 spots. I'm not talking about necessarily right by Village Hall, because that's a place where people that want to do business with Village Hall may park, but where the staff is allowed to park during the day, we should move them across the street or put them on the Toff Street diagonal parking that could be allocated so that it opens up that parking lot. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Trustee Pierce?
It's so nice hearing everybody else's voice before mine. I got some different insights and inputs. I will tell you, I do love your suits. I have used your drive-up thing on a couple of occasions and was very happy to. I have to agree with Trustee Peterson that there's a fairness issue with, and Trustee Masick, that there's a fairness issue concerned with whether we love dogs or not. Or whether Zane and Dunes need somebody to run and be able to have a spot to run in to pick up their stuff. So I think for now, as Trustee Dominiak's input, that the policy should be rescinded, but going to Trustee Bluthart, I think has very valuable input here about looking at the parking on Main Street, finding a spot where people can pull in, and if they're on the east side, they could walk their dog safely or safer to the barber shop, or if they're on the west side, they could have easier access to your store for pickup or your restaurant. So I think what we're finding here is, in the interest of fairness, we need to apply the rules equally to everybody and not just you. I hear other restaurants have taken theirs down. All of them should take it down for right now. But I think the board should have a solid meeting on looking at options like Trustee Bluthart brought up. I think that has some ground to stand on there. One other thing I want to mention is, if we're talking about taking away parking lots from staff here, or the parking lots along the side, one of the bigger things I hear about is handicap parking on Main Street. People being able to get in and out of their cars. I know we added some down in by the band shell, and we added a couple behind, or we added one, I think, behind the Village Parkway there, by where JJ Blinkers used to be. But I don't see why we can't add a few more handicap parking spots on the side of this building here. Not everybody's using these parking spaces every day. Whereas if there's a handicapped person, they got a vehicle, they can get their wheelchair out onto the sidewalk unless they got a rear ramp, which most handicaps don't. They usually have side ones. So if they pulled in there, they can get a wheelchair out on that side there. So I would like, if we're discussing parking spaces downtown, adding more handicap, because I think that's a higher priority to me, than solving the speed of pickup with food. But I think Trustee Bluthart had some valuable ideas that we need to discuss.
Anything else?
Well, I just wanted to add one other thing is maybe we need to send a reminder out to all the business owners that they're not supposed to be parking on Main Street. I know that there are a couple parties that do that and maybe need to be reminded. And I think we also have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, if we don't make the decision tonight to rescind those parking spaces while we look at this other option, that there's going to be a number of business owners on Main Street that aren't going to be questioning the fairness and feeling that they're not held to the same respect, I guess, for lack of a better word.
All right, thank you. So, I guess based on the discussion, I would ask Director Kerrigan to obviously, continue to work with the current business owner from Vegas regarding this issue, and then schedule some type of at least meeting opportunity for all the business owners at Main Street, probably the next 2 weeks. So whatever impact this may have on the Vegas Cafe is mitigated. And then we also have a quarterly meeting on the 12th, which I'd like this topic to be added to that agenda, so that we can come and really brainstorm on some of these ideas. In the meantime, maybe at the next beautification meeting, we can look at the number of parking spaces on Main Street, probably 10 on one side, 15 on the other, and look if there's any type of configuration that could be moved with those spaces to allow these pickup spots without blocking the crosswalk, or figure out some kind of compromise so that, and signage for those issues. So we will continue. We will continue to discuss solutions for this issue. Trustee Pierce,
I'm not sure if you said,
If you have-
I'm not sure if you said what the solution is tonight, that you just put it off for 2 weeks.
We already decided that as a board, though, to Edna, so she's looking for action to reverse that. So there would be no need.
I've been using it still though.
No.
So you're telling me.
Can you clarify what I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
So what I think I've heard the board say, and I don't know if I'm putting words in anybody's mouth, please correct me, that the board stands by the decision to end the curbside pickup unilaterally for all parking spots on Main Street, but there is a consensus of the board to continue to find a solution. So there would be a pickup option on Main Street for both sides of the street, equally accessible to all businesses, in conjunction with Vegas Cafe. So I think that's the solution. I think, like I said, Director Garrigan and Helen continue to talk further about, if they continue with the pickup, what the enforcement would be on that.
And that's the part I'm not understanding, Your Honor. I'm sorry. We're making a decision that there's not going to be curbside pickup on Main Street, but then I'm hearing you say Director Garrigan should work with Helen on that. It's taking the signs away, right?
Just to continue to talk about, future solutions as we try and figure out where there could be a pickup spot, not, on those 2 spots currently.
Right, and that would include the other businesses on Main Street who also would like to have.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you for
Well,
clarifying.
those 2 spots are gonna be open for parking.
According to what the board directed before.
Okay.
Yeah, the board voted on this a month and a half ago.
I don't think it came up as a vote.
Rescinding policy.
Mr. Chair, if I may, was there an affirmative action step taken rescinding the policy, or no, just sunset after a certain amount of time?
Director Garrigan, do you know, or Jim Kine?
And there was no, I don't believe that we took any kind of a vote or affirmative action. The board gave direction to staff to send notices, and just like how it was established, it was a conversation, and we went ahead and did it.
Because we didn't vote to allow it in the first place.
No, we were moving, it was a fluid situation during COVID. We were trying to help people, and we decided to go ahead and allow it. I don't know that it was an official action. It was a conversation, and then staff acted on it. In the same way as this, staff acted on a conversation.
Is there any openness to allow her to continue for a set period of time until she can notify her customers and train them on a new way, or we want to, is it just cut it off?
I think that
It's not for people to understand that they have to go in the back, whatever they have to do in the meantime.
perhaps giving her Helen the opportunity to get a sign made that says pickups are now in the back, that could take a couple days.
It's fine. I can, when they call in, I'll just tell them that they have to come in to pick it up. Thank you, Brent. I appreciate you trying.
All right, thank you, Helen.
Yep, you're welcome.
I'm sure it'll be there quite often. All right, next item on the agenda is the Hometown Bistro concept plan located at 982 Route 59. This is the concept that was presented again by Director Gary, and
Yes.
petitioners are present.
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter comes before you for a concept for the property, business known as Hometown Bistro. This is the property just behind, to the south of the BP station on Route 173 and Route 59. Pursuant to previous direction, our applicant is actually here this evening with their whole team, including a proposed owner, the owner of the property, their architect, and the prospective restaurateur. What they're proposing is a new restaurant to be located at the end cap. There's a vacant business in this existing building. The applicant would like to open a new restaurant, and they'd like to have an opportunity. As you know, there has been previous interpretations about what constitutes a restaurant. So to clarify that issue, the applicant would like to walk the board through what their proposal as relates to this proposed restaurant, kind of walk you through the actual menu, their business plan, their actual architectural drawings. We have all that in your submittal. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the development team. I'm not sure who's going to take the lead, Sunny or restaurateur, and they do have a PowerPoint, so we're going to walk you through their whole proposal for this restaurant.
Thank you, board, for having us here, and thank you for your time for considering us. I'm gonna.
Sir, please, I have to speak up and make sure the microphone picks you up.
Okay.
I know you're soft man, but sometimes that will go out.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, board members and mayor, for having us here. And I would like to introduce myself. I'm Sonny Judge, site vendor Judge, my full name. We've been doing business in town since 2004. Successfully, we have seen up and down with gasoline business, but we have vacant property next door to the station. We would like to do restaurant there, and we have Kim, who has background for 40 years. She went to high school there. I would like to introduce her so she can explain herself, who is willing to do the restaurant business there.
Sorry. So my name is Kim. I grew up, just so you know a little bit about me, I grew up in this town. I graduated in 1983, 83.
So you're still a young couple.
Yeah. Last name used to be Schmoyer. My grandparents owned Hercules Tool Company, opened up in the late 40s, right after the war. They were in the business here for 60 years on Main Street. So I have a very deep-rooted connection to this community. And I've been in restaurant business. I started out at the Beehive, or the Beehive. Anybody remember? Yep, I worked there, and then I worked at the Vault. I worked at the Village Square. I worked at every restaurant except the Vegas here in town. It was here in the 70s. So we currently own Pixie Dogs and Miss Bella's Sweets and Treats. So we're a food truck business. But we've been an established caterer for 20 years. I've included references for you from some of my corporate clients. We specialize in diverse menus from breakfast to Saturday. I'm doing a Mexican buffet for 200 saddlebred owners at a facility in Crystal Lake. So this would be a space that we can bring our quality food and great service to the community. It's a good location, and I'm sorry, I'm a terrible public speaker, so I apologize.
You're doing fine.
It's a really good location for what we provide. Grab and go breakfast was a big thing that we did at our train station restaurant in Woodstock. A lot of the entire public works department, as a matter of fact, used to come to us every morning at 6 a.m. to get their breakfast sandwiches. They still bug me when I go through Woodstock, ask me to make them food. We got great recommendations from that community. We intend to do breakfast on the weekends and just provide you guys with good food. New place for soup too. Saying not in there anymore, hit me, right? What was his name? Right. I probably showed it fast. So I mean, I've got the business plan. We've already created the website. It's actually, the website is AntiochHometownBistro.com. We are intending to create an LLC with Sunny and Bob to run the business, but we will be full owner operators, daily operation. I'll be in the back cooking. My husband will probably be doing the dishes. And we have a couple servers that already work for us on the truck. I mean, we're a legitimate business. We're a real restaurant. You can go on our website. As I said, in the package, there's the referrals from Durabar, which is one of the largest foundries in the county. Top realtor, Kim Keefe, 2021. And the list goes on of people that you can speak to regarding the quality of our food and how hard we work. The architect has prepared a full drawing. I don't know if you want to talk to him. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and again, we can, I'm assuming that trustees have looked at the packet that was provided earlier this week. And I know there's some new information that you provided tonight, so, I think that I could go around the.
Yeah, we just real quickly, we're also the primary food provider for Richardson's Adventure Farm out of Spring Grove. Maybe you have heard of it. It's the world's largest corn maze. We've been with the Richardsons now going on our 5th year. So I included our catering menu to show the diversity of what we do out there. Anywhere from a full Thanksgiving dinner in September, they've ordered it, to a breakfast, to charcuterie. We really are diverse. We're a full-fledged restaurant. We're not going to just be doing sandwiches and soups. We have a full catering list of clients already that would be attending. We have a gentleman here who's kind enough to, from the community, who saw us at one of our veterans events that we do a lot of, and he's also come to speak at our camp.
Thank you. Go ahead, you can say, go ahead, say your name, and there'll probably be some couple questions.
Sure. My name is David Winarski. I actually met Kim this last weekend through a veterans event that I helped put on in Woodstock, Crystal Lake at the border there. Food was fantastic, service was great. And I own a business here in Antioch. She told me that she was looking at opening a restaurant up here, so I would 100% support your business. She said she was coming here tonight, and I'm happy to be here to just say food was fantastic, service was fantastic, and this town would be lucky to have them.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Pierce.
This all looks really good. I mean, we get a lot of people coming here wanting to open up a small strip mall type restaurant that has like cold sandwiches and maybe beer and then slot machines. This looks more like what we've been asking people to do when they come here. So I think this is a really good idea. I am concerned about the parking situation. As you heard, parking's an issue here in town. And looking at where you guys are located, it could be more of an issue. I think that the laundromat right next to you, and you got the gas station on the other side of the big curb in between the buildings. So I think parking would be the sticking point.
If you look, well, you can't really see it, but if you look at the overhead picture, there's about just under an acre of land that the property sits on, plus behind it. Mr. Combs would be more appropriate to speak to us of that, but I know that there's plenty of room in the back for parking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd like to address the parking. We have not done a site plan yet. That would be the next step, but I'm completely confident that with the acre of land, plenty of parking spots for 58-seat restaurant. Handicap parking in front. Most everybody will be in back. We have a secondary entrance at the rear of the building. So we could do something like put a awning over, make it look like legitimate business entrance at the rear. That's the plan.
Thanks, I wasn't even aware of the rear, I was looking that close. Yeah, but now I look, it looks a little more feasible.
Trustee Mason?
So this is brilliant for Sunday to find a food truck. But brilliant move, someone that does good menu. So brilliant move.
All right, Trustee Peterson.
It looks great to me. I would support it. This is what we want. This is great.
Trustee Bluthart?
I agree. I welcome you and look forward to working with you guys as we go through the process. One thing, just the parking, I know from going to that laundromat is pretty tough, but so as long as that gets worked out properly, I think it's a great opportunity for you there.
Trustee Dominiac?
I think this looks really great. I didn't hear the answer about the parking in terms of when that was going to happen. Could you share that again?
I believe the next step would be a site plan review. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
The next step would be a site plan review at that point, and then we bring that concept in for the approved parking lot prior to them proceeding with construction and opening the business.
And then I just wanted to share with you that your food truck is welcome at our festival, which is on the 2nd and 4th Sunday on Toth Street. So something to think about. To be a way to get your food out into the community, so when you open up, people will be familiar with it.
Thank
You
you
talk
very
to
much.
Michael about that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Our schedule, we would love to.
All right, well, I think that you heard, say that again. I think as you've heard from the board, there's general support for the proposition. So, I mean, no vote tonight, but I guess, the green light is given by the board to continue to move the process forward. So, all right, thank you. All right, thank you. I lost my agenda, but I think we have somebody here that's ready to talk. All right, so the next item is the park board recommendation of adopt the park program. Reappointed park chairperson Jim Weber is here to present.
It's been a long meeting. Can we reschedule for next?
He's taking that acceptance of, do you remember what appointment?
Yeah, I went to one parks meeting. It was about this long. So
All right, I'll try not to, guys. I'm the reappointed chairman of the Parks Board, Jim Weber. And the first agenda we have is the park board would like to start an adopt a park program for the village of Antioch. The adopt a park program consists of individuals, civic group, families, organizations that request to adopt a specific park, enhance and beautify the park. There are many opportunities and tasks done around the parks. Each and every one of our parks can always use a little help. So what we're asking today, or tonight, is to approve this adopt a park program so that our community can participate and help keeping our many parks beautiful and clean. It's just a simple memo. We already have Fisher Paper on board. Jim Moran, Gary Quilty, myself went to Fisher Paper, and they're really interested in adopting the park. But we're going to let the Lions Club take Williams Park, because it seems like we're going to be doing all the work for Williams Park, but all the other parks will be available.
any discussion, questions? You got it. It's a no-brainer. All right.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't think we really need to vote on it. I think it's, just the blessing of the board to continue to move it forward. And yeah, it was never it's a new program, but again, I think it's a welcome program based on a lot of things we discussed this week. The park board?
Each of you should have got the pamphlet.
Sure. And is it strictly volunteer work, or is there also a monetary portion?
Well, we've been dealing with the details, but
Okay.
we're going back and forth.
Sure. All right, thank you. The next one is the park board recommendation about the Christmas parade route. Again, whoever.
Yes. We discussed the Christmas parade, and when you have Santa Claus come up, there's the 8-foot tree there, and nobody can see it. Kind of change our minds, and what we'd like to do is just change the route of the parade. It would start behind the store, just like it normally does, come up on Park Avenue, go north end Main Street, and make a right on Orchard, and then you come into Skidmore, and then what happens is Santa Claus would get off on Skidmore right there. We would get up on the stage at the band shell, and then everyone could see him. We could turn the lights on, we have 30-foot Christmas trees back there, 30-foot evergreens. Light it up, and that way we'd have actual, large Christmas trees they have to see. And if people in the parade don't want to go behind the stores again, they can just keep going straight on Orchard and get off the people. So we just want to make it so Santa Claus will come that way. And that way he has time to get up on stage, and then everyone has a chance to get back behind the stage. And hopefully we can get a hold of the chamber, and we can use their light show also and work that together with Santa Claus being up there. The sound system.
I think that's, I'll wait for the board to, yeah, but I think that's a no-brainer for the kickoff of their light show.
So we could do it all together.
Right. Trustee Pierce.
Is there a way to, since we're gonna be going back down by the band show on Orchard and stuff, to change the parking to where it all has to be on the west side of like top and.
There's no parking back there anyway.
Yeah, there's no parking there, but we'll have to make sure we encourage people to park like closer to Dunkin' Donuts for hot coffee, or something for, so that we're not moving people further away from the west side businesses, because I know that's one of the biggest complaints is we keep taking things away from the west side. We don't give them as much. But I think it's great having Santa Claus up on stage.
I thought you were raising your hand to volunteer for the role.
Maybe I can do it.
All right.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so if you're gonna move the parade, it's the only thing that you learn from examples. So Wisconsin had a car go through people. So you gotta get, whether it's public works vehicles or parade routes, and cars drive through it, drones out, whatever it takes to protect the babies, the children, people in their town. You don't do that. We go through, it still amazes me after Boston, we got garbage cans sitting out there, someone throws something in there. It's just, just amazing. We don't, small towns don't learn lesson, and towns are, we had a lesson today at the schools, but nobody takes lessons. They always have short times. So you should protect the creators.
Any other questions or concerns?
I just like the idea, very, very much. 30-foot trees, I'm there, yeah.
Exactly. The Charlie Brown trees.
Yeah, no, but we still have to decorate the Charlie Brown.
Yeah, we still.
Yeah.
But no, I love that idea. I think it's a great idea.
All right. Thanks for sticking it out.
All right.
All right.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank the park board for their creativity, and I think it's great that Santa will be on the band shell. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last item on the calendar, and this is just for new discussion. Again, this is just a concept to be discussed. It is titled here, the naming of the Michael J. Haley Meeting Center, although it doesn't need to be centered directly to that item. I guess I'll present. Looking back, I know there's recently been a discussion about mayors and having, you know, Fall Street, other streets that are named after mayors. And looking back, the farthest back serving mayor who also served as a trustee and a mayor and a village administrator was Mayor Haley, who, as most people probably know, has been battling health struggles the last couple of years. And, you know, for the last year, I've been thinking we probably need to do something for Mike, that he can, you know, be acknowledged. So just throwing out some proposals, and I'm looking for the board for some guidance on this, to do something for former Mayor Haley, whether it be naming the meeting hall, the new meeting center, whether it be naming a street, whether it be naming a feature at the park, after him. But I think there needs to be some discussion and you know, something done in the next couple months to come up with a plan for that item. So, you know, again, I think he is the or you maybe verify this. I think he's the farthest removed mayor that hasn't had something like that done. So I just was going to open that up for discussion with trustees, gather some ideas. Again, I just threw out the idea of we build a new meeting hall, you know, letting him, you know we're doing a dedication now that that's going to be named something like the Michael J. Haley Center. But again, that's just a concept. I want the board to discuss it. So, does everybody hear anything? Trustee Pierce, here.
When you say meeting hall, you're talking about the whole building?
Like it's like our boardroom where we have the meetings.
You know, we had the Bittner property. We're gonna name it after a swimming instructor named Winnie, and that kind of, as time went by, faded away. Sure. You know, and I'm concerned that as it takes us 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years to build this new complex, that may fade away. I'd like to see something more immediate, you know, whether it's a naming of a street or some you know, structure or park. I'd like to be immediate so it's not fading away.
And I would not know where to begin with the process of if it was a street naming, you know, what you'd have to do. Maybe somebody who's been around when the last street that was name was changed, but I'm sure there's some IDOT procedures that.
I have to look into it. Couldn't you do like what they do in the city, the honorary? Something like that. I mean, something like that, where you're not changing the legal name of the street, you're just giving it honorary.
Well, 12th Street used to be Broadway.
It was Broadway?
Yes, it was Broadway.
I'm aware of the streets that have changed. We just haven't done it recently, so I'm not aware of the process. Wasn't around when that happened. But we did honorarily honor the owner Handy Foil out there on Craig Drive. So we've done that recently, and I don't think there's much of a process.
I guess I wouldn't know what the process would be like. If you live on that street, like now you got to change your mailing address. You know what is that whole process?
It depends on the street, how much there.
What
Sure.
about,
I like that honorary idea.
What about
what about, I'm sorry. go ahead.
Sorry, the depot section that just fronts the old school?
Yeah, if you did rename a street, you know, to Haley Street or something like that, you know, it'd probably be easier to pick a street with fewer addresses. Depot would be a good choice on Old Depot. There's only a couple of addresses that would be affected. If we went to those folks and got their permission to change their address, I think you'll have the legal right to change it, and then make all appropriate notifications to the post office and to the county. And, you know, we change addresses, so I imagine it's a similar process to changing an address. So if I had a suggestion, it would be a street like Old Depot.
Trustee Dominiak?
If we name a street Haley Street, they're gonna wonder which of the 125 Haleys that exist we're talking about. What about, just an idea to throw out there, which I like, is why don't we name the band shell, the Michael J. Haley band shell? It's, you know, Mike gave so much of his life to Antioch and, you know, that's a place where our community comes together to celebrate so much. I think personally, that would be a great place to put his name.
I think the band shells would take it.
Yeah,
It's-
I think that's Bill Brooks, yeah.
It's what?
Bill Brook, the whole memorial area in the band shell is the Bill Brook band shell.
So I guess.
It is the Bill Brooks.
Park that's being built with quite a few areas that could be named after someone if they want.
What, Brent? What?
If we have the new park being built, that we have plenty of areas there that could be named after someone if they want. I have the
Well,
bridge.
it's true. It could be it could be the new, what do we call it? Not the gazebo, but the place for, you know, and geez, I can't think of it.
Yeah, whatever. There's.
The bridge would be nice.
I have that's needed. I have a gentleman who's been very patient to me tonight, Chairman Weber, that raised his hand, that may have had a suggestion, so.
I think that Old Depot Street, in front of the sawmill, we create for Haley Street, to see the sawmill, there's plaques up there, and you got the street there, and then all the work's gonna be gone anyway, so you got really no addresses on that whole street.
The suggestion for you, Mary, was from Jim Weber, was to Old Depot between Cunningham and Hillside. It's largely controlled by the village, so I don't know that there'd be any address changes that wouldn't be under our control.
Yeah, I guess, you know, that's an idea. I guess, I just think of naming a street.
So I would like.
Something else that we could, that's more about the community rather than a little short street. That's what I'm thinking.
But it's by the sawmill.
I want this discussion, I really wanted this discussion to start tonight. I would like each of the trustees to email, you know, any potential ideas to you know, Jim Keim and Michael Garrigan. And then at the next meeting, have some kind of summary, but if we could do this, get those suggestions to them in the next week, so we maybe make some presentations to the board at the next meeting and get a move on it. I'd like to try and get something done a decision made between now and Labor Day at the latest. So I'd like to see it on the next meetings, this continuous discussion.
And I'd suggest that we look at that whole process, not just for this instance.
Sure.
Of how streets or buildings or anything else are named, and maybe put some procedures in place for future opportunities so that we don't have to reinvent them.
Figure out how it's done.
How it's done,
Yeah.
who does it.
We need some standard operating
Process.
procedures, is what they call that.
Any minimum requirements, I don't know.
Okay. All right, so I think, again, I feel like there's no pushback on this issue, so with that, I appreciate the discussion. Any other business that needs to be discussed tonight?
Yes, I agree with them.
Okay,
Personnel.
Personnel, and I believe that's.
okay, so I have a request for, I have two requests for executive session to discuss personnel. I need a motion and a second to move into executive session with the meeting to resume after executive session with no further business to take place.
So move.
Second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Dominiac. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason, Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
5 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion's adjourned. We're moving into executive session at 9:35 p.m. with no business to take place after executive session.